Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 21st episode of the Neon Crew podcast. My name is Kyle.
Dude, and I'm Mac. 21?
Yes, we're old enough to drink in the U.S.
Took my joke.
If we were in Europe, we would have been able to drink at 18, but we're U.S.-based, so I guess we have to follow that.
Yeah.
We have a special guest today. Sam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, boy.
Usually people say, this is Sam Parker. I am the special guest.
Yeah.
Very special guest. We've talked about you a lot on here.
The only, yeah. Well, I'm trying to think, like, how would you, like, intro him in?
I mean, literally.
It's a soft intro.
I'm the number one fan of the Neon Crew podcast. So, like, I know for a fact I have to be the highest profile person you guys have had on the show and probably will for a little bit.
Well, you know,
at least a little bit.
We talked about that, and it's like, you know, I think so, but also Gideon, who did give us an intro and outro, which has gotten us into the top 1,000 on Spotify.
The intro is really good,
yeah.
And I do listen to that sometimes. Again, number one fan.
I'll just put that on for the 15 seconds and just let that kind of snooze me to sleep.
So Sam, for people who might not know, how you have a special relationship with McClain over here. How are you guys intertwined in life?
We're brothers. And I don't say that with any sort of real pride, but
Actual brothers.
Actual brothers.
Yeah. Genetically, like DNA, there's a lot of like shared
Not
stuff.
like the notable documentary Once Brothers.
That's the one that I told you Sam ugly cried in.
throughout.
Oh, that was the one where you ugly cried.
Yeah.
That was there's so much emotions going on. I think all of us were just staring at the screen, so no one like looked at each other.
You guys were talking about that, all right? And like, Mac, it was like, has a movie ever made you cry? And I think you talked about that one first, and then you brought up Gleason.
Yeah.
And the reason that Mackie and I watched Once Brothers with another friend of ours was because I had watched Gleason like 2 nights before, and I cried so hard that my eyes were like chafing, like they were completely red,
just burning.
I couldn't. It was one of the most like devastating, heart-wrenching movies ever. And then Mackie came over, and he's like, "Oh, if you thought that was bad, let me put something." And I'm like, "Okay, dude." And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like. And the documentary, I don't even think is very good. Like, looking back on it.
Dude, that was one of the ESPN's for, like, I think
30
that was...
for 30s,
yeah. It was like the third one they ever made. The Len Bias one made me cry. They do a one on Len Bias. I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is. And, like, it
seemed like Vlade Divac really wasn't that close. Like, they hyped up their closeness.
Well, we don't have to talk about it, but yeah.
I know. I'm just saying, the end, he seeed a little like... Yeah, let's get my paycheck and let's get this over with. And I'm sitting there like,
like it would be like if the United States like went in East versus West, and like you had a buddy that thought like the West Coast was right about everything, and then he went off, and you're like, man, fuck that guy. It's like. Even 20 years later, you're like, let's do the documentary. Like, guys that have like egos like that aren't going to be like, actually looking back, man, I really miss my friend. That guy's like, Vladdy's so like, fuck it, but like, I'm out of basketball, so yeah, I'll take whatever you guys pay me. $300K, sure, I'll fake it.
$300K, probably. I mean, they're like, it's a free weekend.
We cried harder than Vlade Divac did at the end of that thing.
100%.
Oh, like, wow.
That's where, yeah.
So that just shows you our brothership and how
you got him to cry just basically to mess with him is what I'm gathering.
Like, we kind of.
It was a very sick joke.
I thought it would be like, oh, like we'll one up it, and then Gleason, because I hadn't seen Gleason at that point yet. He had, I hadn't, and then I mean, I watched Gleason. Gleason was like the first time that like when you go to inhale when you're about to cry to stop yourself. I broke that. I was like, I went to go like take that deep breath, like I'm not gonna break, and the damn split. And then all of a sudden I was like trying to exhale and crying at the same time. Gleason was rough. Gleason is one of those like where you're trying not to cry and you just like start like you just choke up. Like, and that doesn't happen a whole lot.
And
but,
it seems like trying not to cry only makes it worse.
oh God,
Like,
dude.
it just
like you're trying
builds
to hold
up.
it back. Like, I mean, I was legitimately like, I mean, and by the way, you start the waterworks at probably 8 minutes in. And
It's remember he does
not,
it. He does the
not
race.
stop.
He does the race. He does like
Yeah, and you're like, man, that's rough, man. You're like holding it back. You're like, though he's got a kid now, dude.
oh
You're
my
like,
God, it hits.
He
Like
just
it's
wants to live long enough to see
it
his
literally
kid.
feels like Mike Tyson sprints into the room and just fucking like undercuts you in the stomach, and you're just like. Boom.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's so it catches you off guard, and then it doesn't stop from there, and then every moment. So, anyways, yeah, that's my brother Sam. So,
Awesome. Well, it's nice to meet you. We talked a little bit before we recorded, but one of these days, I think I don't think I'm going to do it this episode, but I'll eventually probably recommend watching Dear Zachary because that is a very sad documentary.
Have you seen that, Mackie?
no, that's the film.
Yeah,
I don't want to give a plug. But
that's another water. Right?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. I watched it in high school, but
Yeah, that's
it still sticks with me. To
it's
this day.
on
Yeah.
it's on Netflix, and yeah, they talk. I've heard about the film for like
I would
8 to 10.
recommend tread lightly. Like you will be.
What's sad like in terms of waterworks, Gleason or Dear Zachary?
They're both. I mean, it's.
I know they're the same, but I'm saying in terms like Gleason catches
I'll tell you this much:
off
Dear
guard
Zachary,
crime.
when you like discover what the title means, it's like when the levees break at Michigan's Adventure, and you're in the
Damn.
water pool, and
See,
that big bucket of water comes.
That's
and hits you
what
in
I'm
the face.
saying. Like that's how Once Brothers is. Like it builds up to that crescendo of oh shit, and then all of a sudden you just can't stop. Like
Yeah, like
Gleason's
the first third, 2/3 is kind of a mystery kind of courtroom.
like you don't really know
deal.
where exactly it's gonna go.
Yeah,
you
you're
think
just-
you have a feeling, but then all of a sudden it like hits you like a ton of bricks.
Oh yeah, and it. I mean,
see there's
let's
different
move on before I start.
there's different ways of
Before we repeat,
Like
crime.
like when you said that, I'm like thinking in my head, like, oh yeah, that's right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, it's really.
and yeah,
heart-wrenching.
that might be something I check out on my own time, or maybe I'll bring my friend around and see if because I mean I've like Kodai cried. I think I've been crying more in movies. Like with the sweeping,
You guys,
you know.
I mean, I'll tell you
but-
guys this much. When I was 13, the movie Miracle came out. And
Oh, yeah.
I loved Miracle. I went and saw it a couple of times, and it was at one point one of my favorite movies. I hadn't seen it since it came out, really, or like watching it on DVD. And last summer, it was on Netflix, so I pop it on. It's like Saturday morning in the summer, and I mean, like 15 minutes in, I was crying because I was like watching. I was a coach.
Yeah,
I finally watched it through a coach's eyes, and I mean, I could not stop over the cheesiest, every dumb movie moment. But I was like rooting for her, Brooks. I couldn't. And Megan, my wife, came out, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like I can't help it.
yeah.
It's because there's a whole different perspective too on that. Like when you get into watching,
where he's like tryouts are over. They're like, it's been 6 hours and we're supposed to go for a week, and he's like, that's my call, and I'm like, he knows his team. And then I'm like sitting there and I'm like, Megan, he's going to beat the Russians,
dude.
I'm like
Because you're watching
justifying
it the first time you see, you're like watching it as a fan and you're reliving it, or you're seeing it kind of like, for us as kids when it came out, it was like, we know the outcome, but it's kind of cool to like watch the moments.
Yeah.
And then like you're watching it as a coach, all of a sudden you're watching like, how does Herb Brooks coach this? Like, what's the line change that he does at like 17 minutes? Like, oh shit, he's putting those guys in. He's got the knucklehead crew going out there. Like, let's go. Yeah. So anyway, like we got a couple films that I know we got to talk about.
We got a couple at least. And we can probably start with War of the Worlds. You think?
Oh boy!
Let's do it.
Did you, Mac? Did you want to give a synopsis for this one? And then,
Yes.
Sam can explain the Star Wars
Oh,
one.
I wish I would have brought my freaking phone. What's
I'm sitting over here reviewing my notes, and I'm like, all right, got to make sure I talk about that. Got to make sure I talk about
All right.
that. Oh,
You know
can't
what
forget
this
that.
is? You know what this is? All of a sudden, you get called up to the show. All right. You got everything prepped, locker room's ready, all right, and you're going, oh boy, here we go. And then you're going to get that 1-2 pitch, all right, standing in the box, and I want to see what happens with that, all right? Listen, I'm just up here with the cool 300 batting average. War of the Worlds, 2005, Spieley. All right, how's that sound?
Steven the Goat Spielberg.
Yeah. I wish I remember. I should have looked up who Robbie was, because that was like the one character in this thing that I.
Do you want to know who he is?
What's his name in real life? Because you got Tom Cruise, Dakota Fanning.
It's a bad actor.
It's Justin Chatwin. AKA the last person to portray Goku in a live action film.
Hey, I'm gonna say it right now too. You talk about being an actor. Hey, I'm like 22. I'm in a Spielberg film, blockbuster of the summer. My career's taking off.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Oh. So
hey, Justin, I have an idea. Do you like anime?
Yeah.
Hey, you're gonna be big time, huh, buddy?
Yeah.
I got an idea for you. You're gonna be the face of anime, live action. You are Goku. Like what? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
dude, you know that
right.
his manager was just heard 10% and was like, "I need to sell the shit out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's gonna be franchised."
But keep going.
So, anyways, we got Tom Cruise, Dakota Fanning, special appearance by Tim Robbins, very, very unique,
very special.
So essentially, what this is
We'll
just
get into it.
an adapted version of H.G. Wells' 1898 book, The War of the Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what Spielberg did with this is there's a 1938 broadcast that was scripted out that I think Spieley took a little bit more liberties with than the book itself. Yeah, so, I mean, essentially what it is the movie starts out with Morgan Freeman doing the best thing that he can do for the country, narrating, and he's talking about, you know, kind of like, we're not the...
Did you guys think that was weird, the beginning?
I don't know why they
did it.
did
was like
it.
people fast-paced walking. It kind of reminded me of the beginning of the movie Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser.
I haven't seen that.
Adaptation.
I think
it was very like...
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
He was going with like the
like
micro...
Terminator 2 Judgment Day, like where it's like people walking fast and...
I think they were going with like the microorganisms that we are, you know, that like essentially if you were like an alien looking down on us, you might see us as ants or larvae or...
it was very cliche, but I get... and I understand.
I mean, you know, so I mean, dude, it was Spielberg. I don't know why he narrated it. He dipped in between the book and the script a couple times. So anyways, essentially, you know, Tom Cruise, we find out he's a divorcee.
A deadbeat dad. Call him what he is.
Yeah.
No, there ain't no kind of about it.
No.
Dude, he didn't know his daughter had a peanut allergy and she's like 11.
True.
How about some peanut butter sandwiches?
Since when? Birth.
He's a deadbeat dad.
So he's a deadbeat dad. The kids come in, and I'm assuming that this is in Jersey, and you know, some funky things start happening, and it just turns out, I mean, all of a sudden it's just like boom, right at you. There's aliens in the world. They're trying to take over. And essentially, it's him with the kids trying to escape these things and, you know, figure out, you know, what's the next location to go to survive. And, you know, that's where it's a roller coaster that just takes off. And we'll go from there. So I recommended this movie. Or we kind of said, like, what are we going to talk about? And I hadn't seen it since 2006. Like, we got this from Uncle Jay, or I should say an uncle of ours, for Christmas. And I think that's the last time I saw it was Christmas.
Yeah. I remember us being in the theaters watching it. I think you and I and Dad went. I think this was one of the few that.
Yeah,
Dad took
this
us
was
to.
that and the day that Earth stood still were the two, like.
Well,
we don't need to talk about that. Keanu.
Hey, shout out.
Yeah.
He's
John
like
Wick
looking
3.
at us like, I did it for the money.
We actually have to move the table before we do this. Like, not for you, but we put a carpet down and then we pray to him.
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting pick on your part because, like, you know, I sent you like 20 movies, and then you were like, "Yeah, forget all those. We're gonna do."
Dude, I mean, so I hadn't seen it since then, and I watched it, and I mean, are we gonna get into it?
Yeah,
I'll tell you my kind of like
spoilers for War of the Worlds.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, which is like it's an easy watch. I mean, it's just, and so I threw this on. I was like, I got home from somewhere and it was like 10:30 at night. I was like, I'm gonna crash. I was like, what haven't I seen? Like, what can I fall asleep to? I was like, oh, here's a shitty movie that I'll throw on. The first hour of this thing is like unrelenting. Like
it's very fast paced. And it's not a long movie by any means. Like, it's only under 2 hours long.
It's like an hour 58 or something
for like
that,
a big budget blockbuster by Steven Spielberg. Like, it's pretty short.
Yeah.
I had never seen it before, so I was really eager to talk about this one specifically. Yeah, this movie is very, I would say, flawed. Very enjoyable.
Okay. That's where I wanted to.
Very flawed.
That is so perfect to put it, because but I think that's why I have pages and pages and pages of notes.
Mm-hmm.
Is because, like, I'm looking at this and I just see there's so many things in this movie that I'm like, come on. Like,
yeah.
Like the writing is just so missing, and casting and there's just so many big errors, but at the end of the day, I mean, I enjoyed it. You know, it's an enjoyable, fun movie, and like, even with as you know, we'll keep going.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, like, you got, for me, I knew the outcome and I've seen it, but like when I watched it again, dude, that thrill ride of like going up shivering timbers to coming down, like, I think ended after the boat scene. Like, they get off that boat and they get onto land, and it's like, and then the army comes in and whatnot. From the start of that movie up until they get onto land off the boat, like, I was like up, like, I was ready to pass out. Okay, like, I'm ready to go to sleep. That gets to that point, and I was literally in my bed with my like blanket like this. I was like, oh fuck, like, do I remember this wrong? Like, do they not escape this? Like, the whole time, the way that Spieley can do, like, the way that he can shoot and keep the anticipation and suspense going, one of the more disturbing things that you just kind of took for granted in 2005, the heat rays, like, people getting blown up, and just how creative is that for him to be like, oh yeah, like, how, like, what's mass hysteria look like on a screen, and how can I make this so it's not R? Like, in The Boys, there'd be blood and guts everywhere with those heat rays. But like, this is like, you know.
Well, I was for my research for the show, I listened to several synopsis or like reviews of the book, like the OG book.
Yeah.
I listened, and so did Mackie, to the 1938 Orson Welles broadcast, which I think at the end we should talk about a little bit.
Sure.
Yes,
and
there's stuff to say.
And then last night I watched the 1953 film. So I've seen every major
iteration of
right. And what's shocking about all of them is none of them take place in the same location except for the broadcast and the 2005 film. None have the same main characters at all. Like, not even same occupations, not even the same circumstances to overcome. All that is in common is
the aliens.
The aliens invading and basically making it a mode of survival, and the laser heat rays that kill people. And the most abrupt ending you could ever imagine. And all of them have this random abrupt ending.
Even the book. So, like, I mean, and I don't need to.
That's what again, I didn't read it, you know,
right.
And I'm listening to guys and everybody, I've listened to 3 separate ones, all at different lengths, you know, but like 3 different people, they all said the same thing about the book. They're like, didn't care for it, didn't like it. So I don't think the book is very good, but it is the first. It's the first novel to depict man versus alien in some sort of war. So it's a very, very prolific piece of property, you know, that they're making into this movie.
Yeah.
So it you know, it's got some real weight to it. Like this is
it has a history.
Yeah. And in every version, it's like, it feels like there's 30 seconds left, and then out of nowhere,
it just ends.
It just ends. Oh,
and everything's wrapped up.
Yeah, it's bacteria. The aliens have been scouting this planet for, like we said at the beginning, for thousands of years. Didn't realize that there was a chemical on the planet that would kill them after about a week.
Yeah,
and everybody on the planet is getting absolutely like
massacred.
There is no chance of survival in any of the iterations, especially this one. Just like, I mean, the 1953 one is the worst. They're in a church and the walls are coming in, and like I'm looking at the thing last night. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's literally 90 seconds left. I'm like, they're legitimately gonna die. And then spoiler for the 1953 version.
Yeah, whatever.
Save yourself the time. But he's like, oh, a miracle.
Yeah, I was about to say
it stops. Well, they go outside, and it's bad special effects, but it's like the original laser special effects.
Yeah.
And the alien ship crashes. There's a hand that rolls out. He picks up the tentacle hand, and then he goes, "It's dead." And then everybody's like, "Oh, okay." They're all going down.
So,
and then he kisses the chick. Movie ends.
What I'm hearing is some religious overtones from the 53 version.
Oh, come on. The production code, they were like, you can have your alien movie,
if God stops them.
Yeah. God
you
has
better
to be
make
in
sure
control.
you know who stopped those aliens. But they do say, and then the narration comes on and it goes, and wouldn't you believe it? A bacteria on the planet killed the aliens.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, like just so shoehorned.
So, like, what? I don't know what. So you said good, flawed. Like what?
So there's a lot of different things that are, I think, good and bad about this film. So starting with the positives, I think some, not all, I think some of the special effects are impressive.
Yeah.
Especially for a 2005 film, specifically with the big ships where they're like the tripods, where they're walking around and like shooting like the heat lasers at people and killing them all.
The Jersey scene's insane.
Where that bridge. I mean, that's what you remember from this movie is them driving away in that van and that bridge getting blown up.
It's really cinematic, and I like how it just stays on Tom Cruise for the whole time. Like it doesn't feel like there probably are cuts, but it doesn't feel like there is. Like it just stays on him.
Some pretty long takes, all things considering.
Yeah, like him running from the tripod and then like driving away with his two kids. Like it's super cinematic, and I really like the way that it portrayed it because it felt really suspenseful, and the effects for the most part in those scenes I think held up because they're these like big alien structures that are, they're kind of like using a little bit of shaky cam to hide some of it, but it works because you're with Tom Cruise and it's a panicked situation,
and it's all shot from the ground looking up at him.
Yes.
You're getting that POV that I thought was really cool.
Oh yeah, 100%. That him, dude. I mean, I will say, I think from the beginning up until the boat scene, you could say to someone this was made in 2015 and they'd be like, well, yeah. I think so. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and like if they had cut from the ground level, like you said, to like a helicopter footage of the tripod, it wouldn't have looked as good. Like it would have looked really bad.
Well, it's the scaling on it because there's just like you're with the people on the ground looking up and you don't know how big that thing is. It comes up. I mean, it could be the size of the Empire State Building.
Yeah. Like, I thought that was really impressive, and just certain moments of tension I was really engrossed in, specifically with the like mob mentality where they're like trying to get in the car.
That to me was the best scene of the movie.
That was my favorite,
and I
by
thought
far.
I'll tell you what, that was the best scene. I thought it was one of the. I mean, it's a really, really, really masterful scene where everybody's trying to get into this van because they have the only working automobile.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about that when we get into Tom Cruise's character. But like, and then they're like ripping inside and breaking the glass, and everybody's fighting for this. And then he takes that gun and goes, bop, bop, bop.
Where's my son? Where's my son?
And then another dude, gets the gun or whatever. The one thing I thought that they were lacking with that is, if I counted correctly, there were still like 3 or 4 bullets that didn't get fired, and one of the flaws of the movie is there's a lot of things that get left on the table that never get addressed, or like payoffs. Like for example, what's the first thing you see Tom Cruise doing is being in that crane moving the cars.
Yeah.
And I'm not that I wanted to see him get in the tripod and move something, but
God.
I wanted that kind of mechanical, like him having to use, his hand-eye coordination of some kind, using something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just one of many.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna. I'm
not trying to be nitpicky, but you
good.
start off with a crane, and the guy is like, "You're the best in the business.
It's
you
kinda
gotta
like
stay later," and he's like, "Not my problem."
It's kind of like a false flag. Like you think it's
Yeah.
gonna come back later.
And
or
like, so
you
those
could do
bullets,
it's
I was like-
foreshadowing. You know.
yeah.
Like it's shout out to one of our buddies that is like, what do you like? Foreshadowing. Do you like seeing it after the fact or recognize it in? Being in the tripods did the exact same thing to the people that he was doing to the cars.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll give
Like
you
a little bit of.
I'll give you that. But there's probably 10 of them or something like that I was writing down. But like with the bullets in that scene, I was like, oh, like somebody else's, there's 4 shots remaining or whatever that I was kind of waiting to see that. And I don't think like when they walked away, the gun went off and like shot somebody.
It did.
So did they get used?
Because they're in the,
it's like
they're
an
in the
off,
diner.
It's like an off screen. Like you don't see it directly.
Dude, and that's a really good shot too because they do it. They off center it, so you got the whole cast sitting there and they're talking at the diner, and you can see the car going by, and the guy runs up, and then you hear pop, 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 and that's when Robbie looks back.
Oh, that's right.
And and then she's like, yeah, like the weird like.
Oh,
he's so.
I can't.
Love
keep
you.
going with your positives, and then we can get into the characters.
We love you,
that's
Justin.
probably.
We'll get into
Shout
the
out if you're
positives.
listening.
Another positive. Tom Cruise, very charismatic. He's a good leading man. I think he's
from
good.
this
in
to
this movie.
Magnolia. I mean, like
He's
underrated.
The best. I'm going to see every Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
Right now, I have like only 4 left. So like The Mummy. Obviously Maverick.
Yeah. The Mummy
Lions
is
for Lambs.
I feel like that's going to be a rough one, The Mummy.
I'm anticipating that to be like, all right, I'm going to save this one for last until I'm all the way caught up.
Yeah.
You might have to put your phone away because you might be tempted to look at it.
Valkyrie looks really rough, man. Lions for Lambs looks really rough.
I bet you Valkyrie is not a bad watch, though. I bet you it's going to be like kind of like The Firm.
I thought The Last Samurai was going to be really rough. Like I was really dreading that one, and that went down super smooth.
Mm-hmm.
But like we were talking earlier today, he is top 5 all-time movie stars. Not actors,
but like movie star.
Like he's on the screen,
like leading man.
Yeah, he commands so much attention and poise, and like. Say what you will about John Wayne, but I mean, he acted for 40 years, and there is nothing to those movies. It's just him walking around with a gun.
Yeah,
and people went out in droves. And he looks so recognizable.
Like John Wayne would be like one though that you're like, all right, it's of the time. Like that's who they needed.
And Tom Cruise will look like that in 50 years.
I don't know because like he's got a couple films under his belt where
I don't want to have to like. Bring up John Wayne's best performances or something here. Like,
that's what I'm just saying. Like because we were talking about it too. It's a tin can. It was a tin can type of time.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying like John Wayne like does not hold up right now. Like in 40 years,
you're spot on.
Yeah.
Like in 40 years, you could be like you could take if Tom Cruise. If this was 40 years ago, Tom Cruise could be in that film, and like it'd be just as good. Like you could have that argument.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Like he's not gonna fade out. Like John Wayne was just fucking lucky that he was like 6'5" and like
he put in the work. He put in the work.
No one's saying that
you should see Stagecoach. Like he's doing some of those stunts.
I'm sure he.
I'm kidding.
Okay. Like, anyways, continue. I'm not trying. Yeah,
no, you're good,
dude. Tom Cruise. I think. I mean, I honestly, I had that epiphany. I was looking at a ranker thing, and I was like. I don't give the dude enough credit. Like, and who the fuck cares that I'm saying it? But I was like, I bet you there's a lot of people that are out there like me, like, oh, another Tom Cruise movie. But like, he takes care of you, and like, I don't think he mails in any performance.
No, he busts his ass in every single. Like, we always joke around about the movie The Firm. It's just some courtroom, like. Kind of like
join the firm.
You're
joining
the
firm, and you gotta do the right things to join the firm.
And it's mafia paranoia sort of movie, but like I mean, there are tons, like the Pelican Brief, the there's so conspiracy theory. There's so many kinds of those movies, but what makes it special is Tom Cruise, and he is sprinting around in a 3-piece suit and running. People reference Cocktail still. Cocktail. Who cares about Cocktail? He's a bartender in the movie.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Hey, Cocktail, we're going down to that island," But that's how he's just the man.
Yeah, I watched the new Top Gun about a week ago.
Oh shit!
And
bro,
there's no spoilers,
bro.
Yeah, hey,
like,
I was supposed to go last night and things popped up, so instead I watched 1953's War of the Worlds.
No spoilers, but before the movie starts, a video of Tom Cruise just sitting there looking at you pops up on the screen, and he's just saying, "Hi guys, thank you so much for coming out to see Top Gun Maverick. It took us so long to get this movie out. We worked really hard on it. There's real jets, real G's, real speed, and we made this movie for you guys. So I hope you enjoy."
Did people clap?
People clapped at the end. But
I mean,
I sat there. I was like, I'm ready to join Scientology now. Tom.
Like if somebody just comes on and like, "Hey guys, appreciate the movie," and I bet you that gets a pop. Like people are like, "Yeah,"
That's what I was thinking.
Wow.
It gets some wholesome points right there.
So like, what else?
He's a good leading man.
And you got. Those are my 2 notes. That was the good of the film, guys.
No, I would say the pacing for most of it is really good. It goes by quick. Like you were saying, up until the boat scene, I would say maybe a little bit more up until he gets into that basement with Tim Robbins.
Okay.
I would say that was probably like the best chunk of the movie in terms of pacing.
Two directors, 2 different scripts. That's all I can fathom. If it ended with him and Robbie and like, let me go, and he's just like, and then he grabbed Dakota Fanning, and it was just him running again, and the movie ended, I would be like, oh fuck, like that was. But no, they ruined it.
Well,
so.
I was like,
what notes do you have over there? You got a shit ton of. They're all bad.
I'm a characters guy. Mm-hmm. For me, my favorite things about movies are the characters. Probably number 1. Number 2 is the sound. This movie's sound is terrific. The sound of those tripods, the creaks and stuff of them. There's the use of music, the points where it's void, it's all really good. And then like probably for me, another thing that I love about, or that draws me to really good movies, and then like with sound, the music and all that, but is the colors of that are being on screen.
Yes,
I like a really colorful movie. So when the first one is characters, you break this down. We're following a deadbeat dad who starts off the movie in like the first 5 minutes. He tells his boss to kick bricks. I'm not doing that. And then starts laughing at him. But it's not like, hey, I've got my kids or anything like that. He's just like,
he's using it as a way out.
He's like, hey, have Slider go do it.
Yeah.
He's like, Slider's not as good as you please. I'm begging. And he's like, kick bricks, Tony. I'm out of here. And then he like
union regulations.
Then the next shot, Then the next shot you see is him like going, I don't know, 75 miles an hour in a 25-mile zone, doing like around to meet his kids at his house.
Yeah,
he can't pick him up because he doesn't have the space in his vehicle. That looks absolutely dangerous. He rolls up. Kids don't even really look at him, and he doesn't even really give him a hug or anything. The first thing he says, I think, is like,
"When you picking him up?
Hey, when are you grabbing him?" Like, walk into the house.
Not a hug, a kiss, nothing. It's just like, when are you gonna be back?
Yeah, like and so he's just like the biggest turd, and throughout the movie, he is constantly. Just like he walks by the dude's car and he's like, hey, pick up, get the transmission
solenoid
cleaned up or whatever. And he's like, boy,
change the solenoid.
And I'm like, so is he why isn't he a mechanic? And that never really comes back into play.
It was a way to, it's just a way to get the car to work.
And it also seemed like that guy was his buddy. And then he's driving away in the van that he stole from the guy. He steals the van from him and he's like, get in the car or you're dead. And the guy is like, what are you talking about? drives away, sees him in the rearview mirror get zapped into existence, and it shows his face, and he looks like he just maybe ran over a squirrel.
I mean, like,
Like he's just like,
dude, how much
like,
are you?
ouchie,
How much
mama.
are you processing though on like that moment? Because I was trying to I was watching that scene and I was trying to figure out all right, because his whole motivation, it's very hard.
I think
juggling.
he's an idiot, by the way. I think he's like pretty dumb. Like you see bolts of lightning, and he's so scared of the lightning, he runs under the table with his daughter.
Yeah.
And by the way, I thought the funniest thing is he gets the kids for all of like 20 seconds. He plays catch with Robbie, bullies him into the point where his son dodges the ball and it breaks the window.
Yeah.
And then he walks inside and he's like, I'm going to bed.
Oh.
Because he worked third shift. He wakes up. His daughter had ordered food. He takes a bite and he's like, what is this? And she's like, hummus. And he's like, huh? Like, I need a Whopper. Like,
They didn't. It's funny too because you get Tom Cruise, you're like watching him, and you're like, "There's no, he's like not an idiot, you know?
Yeah,
he's obviously he's like a guy that like grew up in the streets. All of his money came from side hustles. So,
but I just love that I talk about this term. I'm a pro wrestling fan, so you might hear me say the word jobber, and jobber in pro wrestling means that you come in like for the one day of work, and you work a match against, John Cena, and you're going to get thrown around and slammed. You're not going to get a punch in, and he's going to pin you 1, 2, 3 in 2 minutes just to make him look good. And Tom Cruise buddies that he meets up with are the biggest choppers. It's the one guy from Seinfeld that's like, who does not want to wear the ribbon? The gay bully gang member that is constantly beating up Kramer. And then the other guy is Sanchez from Old School.
Both
and
of those
Carter.
guys never. The one guy
I saw him immediately, and I'm like, you guys are dead, and nobody in the audience.
Sanchez looks like he's like 25. The other guy had to have been 35 or 40 during this, and they both dressed the exact same. And I was like, okay, like obviously they're supposed to be maybe druggies. I can't tell, but I know that guy is like 10 to 15. So if he's hanging out with that dude, like they're into something.
I kind of wanted a Greg Kinnear and maybe John C. McGinley, maybe John C. Riley, but like
for those two spots.
Yeah, just like some bit players, because you know what it would have done? It would have made me care if they were going to live or like I'm like, oh wow, Greg Kinnear, and then it's like it's a one day work. Like imagine if that was
off. That's not.
Don't defend the.
No,
who does not want to wear the ribbon?
You don't have to. Those guys could have been anyone. I wish that they weren't recognizable. Was my thing. I was like, I wish I didn't like get distracted by.
How dumb are those guys? Like they see all the lightning and all this stuff, and I mean, like just the crowd in general, including Tom Cruise. At what point did they need to run away from that thing? They're like, huh?
Dude, you don't. I mean, like you don't know what's going on though. You see the lightning, you have no idea. It's just kind of like weird, lightning, like. You're going to check it out. I don't know if I'd check it out. Like, I don't know. Would you go over there? So you see the lightning strike and you're like, all right, I'm going to go check out. Like, let's grab everyone in the street.
Usually with storms, I'll because I like storms. I enjoy going through storms.
Right.
Like, they help me fall asleep. So I like watching them. And so I feel like I would go out and, like, just out of curiosity's sake, especially a storm that big. But
not like outside, but I'm saying like let's say they struck the West Coast like 10 times with a single bolt of lightning.
Yeah, if that happened, I'd like be a little cautious.
Yeah, that's what I was asking because like all these people go around to check it out, and I'm like, that's not me. I really could care less. Like I'll hear the news from like when they walk back. Like I don't need to have this in my fucking profile for like when I make it to Heaven's Gate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just. It's. That whole sequence, like every inch of it, you're just screaming, run, run, run. And then when people start getting zapped, he's still like, huh? And then he takes off and goes.
The processing part of all
and
of
I
it
don't
is
mind
what...
it because it does. I mean,
it's
as an audience member, I want to see those things come up. So I don't want my main character to run away. Like, hey, let's check out. Let's see what's going on.
The camera's following him.
Yeah. Also, what's funny is he wakes up from that sleeping 12 hours after getting his kids immediately, and he eats that hummus, and then he's like, where's Robbie? And she's like, he took your car. and the camera moves in like really creepy, and he's like, he did what?
He cares more about the car than the
my
and then he
car.
goes running out, and he's like, where's my vehicle? And then Robbie comes running up to him. Like, that was completely, like, I imagine, and I'm just guessing, but like how we talked about this movie came in under 2 hours, I think there was some more Robbie B stories. Like, maybe he did something or had like a girlfriend or something that he was trying to go to. Maybe that's why he wants to get in the military and stuff like that. But I think the kid... I just think he's a bad actor.
He just sucked.
Bad.
He just sucked. It was part of the times. Boy, he really played. There was 3 years where like that emo goth stage was like awesome.
Yeah.
You know? And like if there was a poster boy, I would have put him in like, dude, like Charlotte, like Good Charlotte. Like he looks like the lead singer from Good Charlotte.
He's My Chemical Romanced out.
Yeah.
And the bad thing about that is emo kids at the time, if you saw that and there was somebody emo on screen, it goes one of two ways. It's either you're a poser and you're not really emo, or that's if you're an emo kid, or if I'm not emo, I don't like this person because they're emo, which means that they're very,
there's no winning.
There's no winning.
You know, and I was talking to you, like, picture like John Bender from The Breakfast Club, who's kind of that similar type, like very angsty, but he's kind of likable enough and he's quip. But this kid's like, I don't want to play baseball with you. I'm not going to catch the baseball. I'm not doing my homework.
He really
There's
is
aliens.
like
I don't even care.
Deadbeat. I got a deadbeat dad. I hate my life.
It sucks so bad that like the military are coming by and the world's ending, and he's like, "Let me join." He's like standing in mud and it's splashing on him.
Like over.
Get out of the way, kid.
Hey, move aside, buddy.
Yeah.
Like standing in a big mud puddle.
You know, like one of the dudes in there was like, "You can have my fucking spot." Like wanted to jump out, like just strap it on.
Here, let's trade. I'll be Tom Cruise's son.
Tom Cruise snapping at his kids as they're driving on the highway. He yells, "No, Robbie, not like Europe."
Yeah.
Were these the Europeans? And then followed up with, "Shut up, Rachel." He's such a deadbeat dad. Like, the world's falling apart, and he's like snapping at his kid. Shut up!
Well, it's weird because like when I started this movie, I read the description on Netflix, and it said,
"Loving father."
A dad has to, a father has to step up and take the reins or whatever of like an alien invasion. I'm like, step up. What does this mean? And so I watched the movie, and it's like, this guy's a loser.
His motivation is, I'm taking you to Boston, so I don't have to deal with you.
Yeah.
Like,
because he brought him to the mom's house first, right?
Yeah.
That's why he went to. So he's like, you can deal with them. They're out of my hair, and I'll go figure out how to get my fucking car back
and get laid. Like
I got plenty of women that could tell you.
But that was another really cool scene, and I was down on it when it first happened. But they get to that house, and then he's like, "No, we're gonna sleep in the basement." And I'm like, "Okay, like just another basement, uninteresting location." And then it was really just to get to that next shot where he comes up from the basement, and it's the back, the side of the living room is behind him, and then the camera pulls out, and then half of the house is gone.
I really
and there's
like that
a big
shot.
Airplane. Dude, that was a really, really good scene.
The one thing I noticed was how many shots Spielberg had of the entire like room, and how much clutter was in all these people's places.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that was like some symbolism or like, you know, look at Americans, like everything, you can have whatever you want. And all of a sudden when it comes down to it, all you really need is like a 10 by 12 room.
There's a lot of
or
rubble.
some family members to love.
There's a lot of like rubble and like just destroyed stuff in this movie.
I'm not even talking that. I'm talking like you go to Tom Cruise's kitchen. He's got a motor sitting on the table.
Disgusting,
he's got shit
dude.
sitting
There's
everywhere.
oil, and
you go to the kitchen. His backyard is tiny. He's got lawn chairs. He's got a slide. They go to the parents' house. They go outside. They walk in. They got pictures everywhere. There's furniture all around. They go into that kitchen. There's shit everywhere. Even when you go into the basement, the unfinished basement, there's a fitness room. They have a bed laid out. They got all their storage on the wall. Like, there's so many shots like before the aliens start taking over in these homes of just shit everywhere, and I don't know if it's like them set us up for like
they even went from one basement part to the to like a bomb shelter in the basement, right? Because it caught on fire.
Yeah.
Remember that? And I'm like, I was like, oh, hey, good call.
They had to like retreat
that was like
further below.
Yeah, but like the one thing I will say is the goal of the movie, like War of the Worlds. There's really two like points in war movies. It's either they are trying to win the war, which very quickly turns out they're like, oh, you don't have a chance.
Can't.
So it turns into survival. And in a good survival movie, you picture like Castaway.
Yep.
Like he's just trying to survive. But in one of the small details that really adds a lot to the film is, oh man, I have a toothache, or I'm in pain, or I'm overcoming some sort of physical ailment. Tom Cruise is healthy, and at no point, like they go into freezing water and it's snowing, and he gets out and he's like I don't even think he goes like Burr. He's like, come on, we're out there just sprinting around, yelling at his kids.
He's got a different. The aspect of this one was keeping it's the growth with the dad.
I'm saying like the goal, like
his overcoming, I think, would be hating his kids or thinking that he's above them to, oh shit, like that's who I'm trying to keep alive now. Like you're talking like Castaway, his survival and overcoming that is because he like in 127 hours, like I have to do something physically to make it to that next step.
Right.
Like in this one, it's overcoming that, maybe being the fear of being a dad or just being a piece of shit. And like his whole, he could have died fighting Tim Robbins to save his daughter. Like that's where you kind of get to with him as that character starts to develop, is like, oh shit, he actually is, you're starting to see that he will do whatever it takes to keep the kids alive.
Yeah. That's kind of what I got too.
As opposed to himself. So like a lot of it, and
then he kind of fails miserably.
Well, I mean, really, dude. The one thing I didn't notice that I saw when I was driving to drop Preston off was when the kids.
Wait, you were watching this while you were driving, or somebody else was driving?
Someone else was driving.
Okay.
So I put it on because I was like, I gotta retune up and watch this. And Robbie he stops him on the mound, right? And they're like, he's like, fucking let me go. He goes, I love you. You're not doing this. You're my son. And I was like, oh shit, like you hadn't seen any of that. And like when it happens, for my fault was like the whole time I'm thinking of like, God, he just sucks as a dad, right? And like you just assume that it's just a bad dad. So when that line kind of pops up, you're like, of course you do. It's your kid, So it went through, but then finally watching it at that time, I was like, oh shit, like that's the first time he says it to Robbie. It's in all of this stuff going on, and he knows his son's gonna die, and this is his way to, like, I can save you. You're not going. And like when he just yelled, because that's organic.
Yeah.
That wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be this tough dad. I'm going to tell you how to do these things. I bossed you. Like that was like, slow the fuck down, dude. You're going to die and I can't let that happen. And I was like, that to me, like that was like one of the scenes where I always glanced over and like I finally heard that and I was like, oh shit. Like that was like a big moment, which I don't know if it gets lost because it's everything around you is like
it gets lost.
Brimstone and fire.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like one of those things you're like, of course he's gonna do that. Like you can't let, but like,
no. And Robbie's so unlikable that as an audience member, you're just like, please,
yeah, just let him go.
And I mean, it's kind of like they're like, yeah, we're just gonna take him away, so you guys don't have to deal with him. And we'll let you know he's okay.
It'll make the scenes coming up a lot less complicated for you. So you'll just have Dakota Fanning and yourself, Tom.
Dude, I remember watching this when I was, when it came out. So I was 14, right? And I remember being, my favorite part of the movie was after Robbie is gone off screen because he was so annoying.
He's distractingly bad.
Yeah. Well, he was my age at the time ish. He's about that.
Just didn't relate at all.
16 years old or whatever, and I'm just looking at him like, this kid is miserable.
And I don't think it helps that the acting isn't very good. Like
it's a tough role. Like you're gonna play this emotional kid that's rolling around, and like neither him nor Tom Cruise have like very good ideas throughout this movie. You're like, you're gonna go to Boston from New Jersey to just check in on the wife that hates you. Like I'm sitting there like, go to warmer climate, like get to a desolate area, get to a safe spot, and then like set up your plan. and he's just driving around like a madman, like, we're going to Boston, you know.
He's got no clue.
He has no idea.
So, like, what was, I mean, like, I wanted to hear your aspect of it from the writing standpoint, because I can't ever put my finger on the script when I see these things. And then, like, sometimes I'm like, I know I just saw, like, the first hour, like, I know I just saw a suspenseful movie, and I'm like, how did this end up so fucking bad? But I'm curious, like...
I think part of it has to do with the fact that, yes, it is a movie about, like, an alien invasion and, like, surviving that.
Right.
Where I think it kind of went wrong was they tried to introduce the element of, and you see this in, like, shows like Walking Dead or, like, other apocalyptic stuff where it's like, oh... the zombies or whatever, the aliens aren't the only threat. Like, humans are also bad too when it comes to civilizations breaking down. And I think that's what they tried to do with Tim Robbins' character, which I don't know if that quite translated as well as they were hoping.
It's also within a span, speaking of writing, right? Within a span of, I want to say, less than 90 seconds, you see Robbie go over the hill, big burst, possibly dead. Rachel almost gets stolen from another couple.
Yeah.
So you have the fear of losing your daughter. And then Tim Robbins is, hey,
over here,
follow me into this basement.
Over here. He's got his gun up. He's literally just going over here.
Yeah, like holding a shotgun. And Tom Cruise is like, great, we're here. Let's go. And before we get into the basement stuff, because it's juicy. But the ferry sequence, the one thing I wish they changed about that was, remember the random gal? We went back to the jobbers, but imagine if one of those jobbers, if Sanchez was there, like just a character that you saw in the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
That you got to that point, you're like, oh man.
They
like,
made it over here too.
Yeah. Instead it's like, hey, you remember Carol from your mom's art class?
Introduce a character that the characters know, but we've never met before.
And then expect us to like care that they need to get saved and they don't.
Yeah.
But you're also thinking like, oh, okay, they're going to add some value or whatever. It's really sad because if you deleted any of that, you wouldn't miss a thing.
It would not matter.
You wouldn't even miss the tension in the scene.
That's
not good.
I kind of forgot that like, even thinking about it now, I was like, I thought it was kind of weird from like the rewatch being like, oh, we're just going to introduce this character, and then they just don't make, and it's like, boy, that sucks. Like, I guess that's just where we're kind of at with the,
very purposeless.
Yeah, and now that you're saying that, it's like, oh man, like actually, if they would have had someone come back and like you've made it this far, like you're kind of rooting for them to get on that ferry too.
At that scene, I don't know if you guys noted how many extras were there. I mean, there was like 1,000 people.
There's a ton.
There
was a lot.
Speely is like a fucking. Other guys that don't get enough credit too, and he probably does, but like that ferry scene,
he's like Tom Cruise, like
easily.
You hate to give him credit because he's been dominating for so long.
All the marking, all the camera shots, the extras, having all those people on that ferry, and like that whole scene is all of 10 minutes, and it probably was the most work besides maybe the running in Jersey.
Yeah.
In terms of, because that's just a tracking shot.
And Tom Cruise is just watching another person die and just not reacting. He's just like, well, yup. And then
I think you gotta give the dude a pass with what's going on in the world. Like, you're not, like, if you're running and you just, like, all right, imagine you just fucking walked over this bolt of lightning and all of a sudden a tripod comes out of the ground. One, like, I would be like, fuck. I wouldn't even care about, like, and maybe Preston would be the only person I'd be like, all right, maybe you might get in there. I'd be like, where are they at? What's going on? Other than that, and then all of a sudden you're running and people are getting fucking dusted on you. Like, he gets home, he got home and he goes to shower and he like wipes off.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's
the only time that like he ever reacts to something like that, and then
that's the only time he can process
the basement scene.
But like, I just want to say that I had a funny. It's not really funny. It's kind of tragic, but it's like, imagine how much shit like somebody getting cremated would have to get dumped on you for that. Like, he's going like this, and that's the remains of Jill, Rachel, Kevin, Bob. His friend Jim from up the road is just, and he's scraping them
jobbers.
Off. Yeah. And I was like, I'm just like,
day rate actors.
How many people are on this guy like in his hair right now that he's like combing out? You know,
his
like,
Bucky, his drug dealer,
like, tragic.
The
But oh, dude, it's all over him. Yeah. So, anyways, like, all right,
So, yeah, but the ferry sequence, and then they fall into the water, and I saw that it was snowing, and they get out, and it's just like,
I don't know if it's
that's
snowing.
kind
It
of the
might be
movie
dust
is like, he does not react to anything. Like, he just plows through. Like, it's cold. His son might have died. He's consequence free throughout the movie, and by the end,
he's keeping those kids alive. Like, you're
kind of. I'm saying he doesn't get hurt. He never
But dude, like,
he doesn't have a cut.
When you're
Rambo had to get tied up. You know what I mean? Like, my arm's cut. You know, like,
there's so much more. I think the drive with him is just him. You're starting to see the effects of how bad of a dad he was, and how it plays later on in the film, and like, there's a little bit of like a revival or rebirth of like, you see how much he cares for the kids. But
yeah, because what I got from it is like, he never really had to try to be a dad.
Right.
Like, he never really had to like put in the effort to be a dad, because
took it for granted.
He took it for granted, and he just assumed that his kids would love him because they're his kids.
Right.
And so when all this shit happens and he actually has to step up, as the Netflix description said before I watched the film.
That's where it comes in.
That he found that it was a lot more difficult for him to do because he never had to previously.
Right.
And
that's a good point.
Yeah, when he does like try to do those things and he struggles, it's because he doesn't have previous experience for it. And I think that's what the filmmakers attempted to get across. Yeah.
It's hard.
And I think it worked in some instances and didn't work in others. Like,
I said that, I think that's because I'm in the same boat. I think and the reason why it kind of sucks is because unless you're of that experience or of that ilk or can relate, which you can't relate to the deadbeat dad, and you can't love you, Preston,
I'm not calling anyone out,
and you can't
I promise,
and you have to relate to the kids, and then it's hard to like, so everything that goes on, sometimes it doesn't feel like there's genuine growth, because we take it as audience members for granted too, that the parents, because it's an emo thing, it's like either your parents loved you and you can't relate, or they hated you and you have it worse than Robbie and Rachel.
Yeah, well, nobody has it worse than Robbie. Robbie's he's the most miserable person I've ever seen.
I think he's about as tough as like, I'm gonna go buy like a fucking nickel of weed, like I'm gonna smoke that in like the bomb shelter and get high.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm gonna join the army so I can get dip. You know, like,
Dad, don't bother me. I'm listening to Green Day.
Yeah, exactly. Going fucking hard in the paint.
Dude, did you like, he's got the headphones on like when either the mom or somebody, and they're also sharing a room, deadbeat dad alert, like, come on, dude. But they like come over and he like lifts his headphones off, and it's like, like, you couldn't play like just any sort of notable, like, get the rights to just some sort of emo. I mean, it's like screamo, like unlistenable. Well, see, that's
what I would imagine it. You know, you got that sort of. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
So let's we don't have to. Let's not.
All right. Let's get into. I want to say this before the basement stuff here. Okay.
Yes. Basement stuff.
The 1938 broadcast. We listened to, did you listen to it yesterday? Okay, so there are points in it where I was like, legitimately like, man, this is really, really good stuff. Like, listening, like, there's a point where they're like, oh, we can see them coming up to the shoreline, 1,000 yards out, 800 yards out, like that level of pause and anticipation, and it was really good. And then they go to a basement, and there's this guy, and Orson Welles and him are having this chat about the world post alien invasion. And I'm like, oh, here's Tim Robbins and Tom Cruise, and this is exactly what Steven Spielberg thought this movie needed. And when he shows up, I mean, screeching brakes. And I remember when I saw it the first time, I thought it was complete suspense, and oh my gosh. But it's just a very divisive scene. Like, people either love it or hate it.
Who loves that
I
scene?
think
I did when I was younger, because I was legitimately like, I don't know if Tom Cruise is because he didn't get injured the whole movie.
Yeah.
And at the time, Dakota Fanning, which we haven't even really talked about her.
We don't need to talk about Dakota Fanning.
What is her deal in the movie? She's just weird. Like she's not playing like
she's
super
obviously
smart.
She's taking care of herself and doesn't have a male figure in her life.
I got a hummus pita.
She's like more independent than Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Like, she knows more of what she's doing.
And that was kind of her thing. Like she was in a bunch of those movies where she was like the adult, but she's a little kid.
Yeah,
playing it
it's
that
like
way.
she's taking care of Tom Cruise a lot of the time.
Yes. Well, can't even do that right. Apparently, she's a deadbeat daughter.
Deadbeat daughter.
She kind of, I mean, the whole peanut butter sandwich deal. Yeah, she's like throwing shade at him, and then he throws those sandwiches against the glass.
How many takes do you think that took for him to fucking hit the peanut butter?
Knowing
on the
Tom
window?
Cruise, knowing him personally, one.
You know he just went for it.
Oh, he thing
slapped
fucking,
that shit with peanut butter.
I mean,
and just,
yeah, like he's like the rage he has, where, and especially when Robbie's like,
one for
I'm
you,
not hungry.
One for you, one for you, one for you, and one for the house.
Yeah, he's laughing. He's like, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm allergic, and then Robbie's like, I'm not hungry.
I'm not hungry, Dad.
Yeah. Fucking just want to listen to good
and that's all that
Charlotte.
takes for him to snap.
Wake me up when September ends.
Dude, you know, well, I mean, like, honestly, though, I've been in that, like, with, like, Preston. I've been at that, like...
Oh, yeah.
Like, you need something to go right, and you think you got it, and it's something very simple, and it's just like, no thanks.
Yeah.
And it's just
I'm
like...
all set.
Like, me, myself, and Irene. La, 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 la. Like, dude, like, it's, you know... But yeah, so we get to Tim Robbins in the basement. Over here,
a reunited from Top Gun, as we know, where they don't even acknowledge him in Top Gun. He's that big of a jobber. I think Tim Robbins is.
Sam's gonna go into his hate for Tim Robbins.
I don't know if we hate him, but all he plays is like bewildered, stunned. Like confused.
Yeah,
that's it. Think Shawshank Redemption. That's why he's so perfect for it. Is he's just like, what do you mean? I'm innocent.
I like him in Shawshank Redemption.
Of
like
course,
he's good in that movie.
He's got
because
one good movie.
He's playing. It's a performance of his life, and it's the role he was born to play. This guy that you're not quite sure if he killed his wife or not until about 2/3 in.
Supposed to be cunning, and that's where confused kind of comes into the cunning because there's some chicanery involved.
Even in Top Gun, he plays Merlin, which you would think, okay, this guy is wise and smart or whatever, and they don't even address him. He's sitting behind Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is like, check this out. And he's like, you're going to do a whoa, like the entire movie. Dude, so, and I got onto this because I put on this movie called The Player from Robert Altman's
we're not going into Tim Robbins'
I'm sorry,
hatred.
but he ruined the movie for me.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I get random texts from him sometimes of just like, Tim Robbins sucks. And it's like, well, what'd you watch now? Like, he's like the old lady where it's like, you see the infomercial again. And like, yeah, I have to tell someone about this.
You're right.
And I get those texts and I'm like, I don't even know what you're like watching. Like,
I apologize. But it's so true.
What's the one? Jacob's Ladder. I was about to say. There you go. That's going to be next for you. You can watch that. Anyway, so we get into the basement of this thing, and like Tim Robbins doing what he does best. The dopey, confused, fucking. I've got all the answers guy.
They buried themselves years ago.
Panicked conspiracy theorist man.
Think about it.
How about that point in today's time?
He reminded me. So he's in Mystic River, and he reminded me of like him in Mystic River in those scenes where like he's dark and gloomy and he's like telling his wife all this stuff. Like no real spoilers for Mystic River, but he's like I feel like he channeled some of that energy, and I feel like it worked a lot better in Mystic River than it did this.
It won him the Oscar.
Yeah,
Best Supporting Actor for Mystic River. Which was 2 years before this. So this is his big one after.
I'm saying, like, how bad. All right, how fucking bad is he in this thing though? Like, out of a 10,
distractingly,
he's easily the worst, I think.
No, Robbie. Well, all right.
No,
the debate is on. The debate is on.
We don't need it because I was about to say they're tied.
His accent, his motives, his decision making, his overall look,
his facial expressions,
the basement itself, like the setting. I mean, can we get like some? Does it need to be like completely dilapidated? Like, can't there be like some carpet or like like some color down there? It was literally just gray.
Oh, it's gross.
And there's like dripping water.
You have the feel of being an early man, being in a cavern and escaping the dinosaurs. Like, that's they give it's the survival thing. Like the theme, I think Spielberg kept up with the theme relatively well in this one. It's like, all right, how far off was Tim Robbins as a character? Like, do you think you could go in there after watching it and then in post like, we need to reshoot this, Tim? I want a little bit less confused, like a little bit less like dopey.
It would have been nice if he started off like super, hey, how you doing?
Strong.
I think it would have played to have a nicer area because then you would have felt more safe and comfort as an audience member for Tom Cruise and like Dakota Fanning.
Have it be like him perceived as normal by Tom Cruise, but then like the cracks start showing.
Yeah, and he's like looking at him as he's like, what do you got over there? And he's like, check out my bunker.
Yeah.
And it's like really dark.
He comes
and
out
scary.
strong like right out of the gate.
Yeah. It's like within 20 seconds, you're like, all right, this is...
Because we can all admit, like, it went wrong. I mean, besides kind of like the arc with Tom Cruise and his kids, like, this is where it went wrong.
Yeah. For me, I think my issue with it more so is less to do with Tim Robbins and more so with like the pacing coming to a halt. Because before they're like constantly traveling, they're constantly like on the move, like on the run, like away from these aliens. And then all of a sudden they're stuck in this basement. And they're there for like what, 15, 20 minutes?
Dude, I think it was like a half hour. I mean,
and there's some good stuff down in there, like the whole thing with the snake eye deal, and he's like trying to kill it, and Tom Cruise is like having to wrestle him, but they have to be quiet. And
that was
like,
awesome.
There's like so many layers of tension, but it's nothing based on the characters. It's just the situation. If those were two accountants, or it could have been
for sure. That could have been a short, and that would have been like a
could have been
short.
Captain America and Incredible Hulk, and it would have been the same level of excitement because it's the situation.
Thanos is around the corner. Like, we got to be quiet.
I want to. My note just says, "Here comes Tim Robbins." ... That's all. That was the start of this.
I think
and here comes Tim.
That's a good note.
I was like watching it. The worst I ever felt, and this was back in the car, but the worst I ever felt for Tim Robbins is when they watched the aliens do the thing with the blood, which I guess is from the book.
Okay.
Of kind of fertilizing the planet for the aliens. Like, that's why they pulled that.
The red vines and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that looked so cool. I needed more of that. I wanted to see buildings,
they would have started
like
sprinkle that in while they're on the run, like on the like going down the highway.
Yes.
And then they get to, and they're kind of like looking around, like what's kind of going on here?
Imagine they're in that basement and you can see one like coming down from one of those cracks, and then the next day when they wake up, it's the whole wall.
Like, they
and
literally they just wake up and then you see it, and it's not off-putting. It's just like, oh, we had to fucking thrust this in here.
Yeah.
And then Tim Robbins has blood on his face and he's screaming, Ray, Ray, Ray. And then they do they show it, and then they zoom out, and he's like, like, he's literally looking like that. And I was like, I feel so bad for Tim Robbins. I don't know who told him to go this direction, but why does it have to be so
been like some
dopey?
of the last stuff? Like, Spielberg's like, let's just wrap this up, like, because we got to spend 9 months in post on this.
Here's a thought exercise that I just came up with for this. Take Tim Robbins, switch him with Willem Dafoe. Do you think that would have worked a lot better?
100%.
110%.
He's got the creepy, like, he can roll his face like Jim Carrey, so he could have looked like a gremlin right off the gate, and you're
like the same thing with The Shining, like Jack Nicholson. Like, he's already uneasy, unstable, scary, creepy like that.
Yes.
It would have been a lot more believable if it was someone like Willem Dafoe.
Like, I don't know that. Yes, that's what I was saying. Like, just poor casting choice, right?
Yeah, I did, and then I did like the. I did enjoy him killing Tim Robbins. And it's just on Dakota Fanning's face. I mean, that was pretty intense.
Yeah.
I did not like Tom Cruise singing to Dakota Fanning before they have that sit down.
Second movie in a row I've seen Tom Cruise in where he sang.
He sings in Maverick?
Magnolia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but everybody's doing, and I guess he does sing in Top Gun.
The just as weird. So
it's not,
I think we can all agree.
Going to stop till you wake up. Like, it's very, watching men sing a cappella.
Watching Tom Cruise sing is just kind of weird.
He's got like one of those things where you're like, I look into his eyes and see nothing. Like, he definitely has that smile, like Homelander and The Boys.
Oh yeah.
Like, when you like Homelander smiles, like you just kind of see him. Like, I don't know how guys do that or pull that off, but that fake like mentally, like I'm like doing rehearsals in the back of my
Probably
head,
because he's met over 2 million people face to face, and he is just, I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I've got no emotional attachment.
I've had every conversation you could ever
This
imagine.
is a muscle reflex at this point.
Yeah.
This is, I've seen more people than you've like seen on Instagram.
Yeah.
That you could even imagine are on the planet.
That's true. That's got to be. I mean, I don't know. He's just got that type of like.
So, what else is down there? He sings. He kills Tim Robbins. The alien comes back down, and they play with the bicycle. And then
that was so. I read a little something about that too, which was interesting. So you know when they play with it,
yeah.
Spieley had it in there. I think it was from the book, and it was one of the things where the protagonist was watching this happen because he pulled it from the book, and he was wondering if their civilization was so sophisticated that they had skipped the invention of the wheel, and that's why the aliens were so curious as about what that was.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that it was a bicycle, but that it was the wheel.
That would have been funny if they were like, "Have you seen this bike they got? It's a Schwinn 225," and the guy comes over and spins the wheel, and he's like, "Oh."
Can we talk about the aliens themselves? Because it's like the first time you actually see them on screen.
Yeah.
A little bit aged.
I didn't. Did you guys need it? I didn't need it.
I wish they. I wish they didn't. I wish the only thing the closest thing we had was the snake. I thought those tripods and everything and all of that was so much more menacing.
So sexy, dude. Those things are so gorgeous.
It like loses the mystery when you see them.
Has there been an alien on screen? Maybe outside of the movie Alien that like I'm talking about like an invasion.
I'm gonna say no, I haven't. There hasn't been. I mean, like Quiet Place. They were kind of cool, but like I can't in anything of recent memory.
That one felt like more like action survival-y than. Well, I guess this one is too, but like
the aliens. That's what I'm saying. Like the aliens in it though. You remember seeing the aliens?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like a creature that I saw. Like Independence Day. They look cool, but not like. I was satisfied seeing them.
It looked like the same fucking thing in this. I mean, I don't. What was the one that we watched with Pratt? Day After Tomorrow or the World?
Oh, the Tomorrow War.
Yeah, they were kind of. I don't know. I haven't.
The designs were all right. I would say
they're always the same. Like gray aliens, skinny, like stretched out ET kind of.
Yeah. Like it makes me think of Signs. Like this movie reminded me a lot of Signs.
Yes.
In a lot of different ways.
It's very similar. Another deadbeat dad.
No, I can't think of really any other like alien design in any movie besides Alien that I think is like significant or stand out.
And I'm just saying like satisfying. Like you're looking at it.
They're
and you're
tropey.
Like,
that's the problem.
Yeah,
like, they're tropey.
Yes.
It's like there's no one. H.R. Giger, right? Or
yeah.
Is it,
yeah. Geiger.
Geiger. Yep. Like he put in the work. Everyone else is like, fuck it. Like this isn't what we care about. They're paying to see Tom Cruise, not
give
to see
him
the
skinny limbs and a big head.
Yeah.
Call it a day. Move on, Derek. So we finally get to see those guys in the basement, and then very fast Rachel takes off, the daughter. Which what the hell are you thinking? And Tom Cruise walks out there and he starts yelling, Rachel, and then she's just standing, and that's the only time that you get to see those red vines everywhere.
More so yeah, popular.
Well, you really get to soak in it, and that's where I wish that we had a chase, an action scene like where he's running and tripping on them, and But I was just happy to see him. It just felt like a missed opportunity.
They thrust so much in there right at the end, and it's like, why?
we're on that track. But then Rachel's standing there, big spotlight, doesn't move, doesn't do anything, gets sucked up into this tripod, and then Tom Cruise is like, I got an idea. Just finds the army thing of there's grenades, perfect. Hey, my daughter's up there. Boom! It throws a grenade where his daughter gets sucked up into.
Oh, he did throw it.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So
what was he
it
thinking was going to happen?
I think he knew the defense was up there, so he's trying to get their attention.
Okay.
Like I think, because I do know what you're saying.
If he made better decisions earlier in that movie, then I would buy
justified
that.
It.
You would have been like, "Oh, that's a smart move." Like,
but he's such an idiot, like his dumb son, that you can't.
Who knows? Robbie might be up there with them. No one knows where Robbie's
Maybe
at.
that's why he threw it.
Yeah. Robbie!
Is Robbie up there?
Yeah.
There's a chance he could be.
So yeah,
And then they bring him up there, and then they're in this like weird cage thing. And I think that's where I was really hoping for, that he would get in there and use it as a crane.
I'm telling you, dude, 2 fucking scripts, 2 different directors had to have been like.
He goes up in
It
this
gets from bad to worse.
Hey, did you think that thing looked like an anus?
Yeah.
Yes, it did. Absolutely, it did. I thought to myself, that's a butthole when they were getting sucked up into
Getting
it.
puckered up into that thing. I was like, this is so inappropriate.
It took Tom Cruise to get up there before somebody's like, "No, you do not. You are the star of this movie.
Yeah,
You are not
we gotta
going
save.
out like that."
We gotta save this specific guy.
Yeah,
that's here.
there was no lead up or like there's no reason for that to happen.
And then
and he leaves the grenades up in there, and he like comes back, and the pins are in his hand.
He spits them all out of his mouth.
Yeah, the
Oh,
G.I.
yeah.
Joe guy who's like, "Everybody down!"
It's gonna be big. It's gonna be loud.
And then they crash, and they're okay.
In this giant fucking iron
Yeah.
cage.
They gotta be 50 feet up.
Dude,
minimum.
higher than that. Like you're talking like 5-10 stories. Like they're talking about how tall, and it's not like they're in like this bubble buddy, you know? Like it's just a rustic giant cage.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did not. It could have been anything. It could have been a plastic. It didn't need to be this cheap metal.
No,
like
they
deal. Like,
it's
there's no reason
harvesting
for that.
humans. So it's like, what do you do with chickens? You put them in wire cages, you know, so they don't like. It was dumb.
So I wrote down at that point, 16 minutes left in the movie.
Yeah.
And this is what happens in 16 minutes. Ready? They destroy a single tripod, and then they just get out, and then they make it to Boston in the very next shot. There's like a street sign that says Boston.
Yep.
Hey, welcome to Boston.
Yeah.
You can do a Boston accent.
Hey,
Sure.
hey, welcome to Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Sox.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to Boston. I try to channel my inner Bill Burr there.
Yeah, and then they
Well,
walk.
you gotta
and they
scream more.
Then they see the red vegetation thing, and it's all like dried up. And,
It's
like,
dying.
It's ashy.
Yeah.
And then, the aliens just start dying. Weird. We don't know what happened with them. A couple of pods went down.
Yeah.
Like Deus Ex Machina to the biggest degree. Just, it might be the bacteria.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And
I mean,
then-
you do get your justification, but
And then they're walking down the street,
unwarranted.
and then, mom's fine, grandparents and stepdad are good. Oh, here's Robbie, he's fine, and the aliens died because of water. Or maybe it was bacteria. Who cares? Who knows? They didn't know our planet had water.
It's like the same ending as Signs, basically.
Yeah,
Like-
at least signs are splashing it on them. Like, these guys,
Right.
they're
Well,
like...
and it wasn't like an alien invasion. It's just like maybe they're doing like a reconnaissance mission, so they don't know. Like the movie leads off as, and H.G. Wells plays it that way, as we've been under their microscope for 1,000 years. They've been watching us. So
Yeah.
like, I was just saying like, people do 10 years of research and they might get confused. Like, oh, like there was a strand of DNA that like we just couldn't account for. You know, like you find out with the reactionary once you do live testing, 1,000 fucking years.
Yeah.
Like from 10,000 AD up until now, right? Like, look how far we've come as a civilization, how much we've learned. Like, these guys couldn't.
And I get that this is in the book or this is in the broadcast or whatever, but they change so much, and there's very little that is a part of any of the four. Just write a stronger ending where Tom Cruise uses a crane to kill the mothership,
or something.
He sacrifices himself in front of a laser like Randy Quaid in Independence Day.
Make it feel like his actions have purpose.
Yes.
Which, controversial point here. I think Independence Day is War of the Worlds. For all the similarities that are in those War of the Worlds, I think and I think it's the best version. In my opinion.
they took liberties with it though, and they made it kick ass.
Yeah, but like smart decisions, like okay, instead of
we're gonna go nuke the bastards.
Instead of bacteria destroys them, it's actually we can hack their system to put down their shields, and then we launch a full-on worldwide attack. But it's like I'm
not
getting
only
goosebumps
that,
thinking about that.
But not only that,
this one you're just
there's they are smarter than us, so we have a window.
Yeah.
Where it's not like, oh, water killed them. It's like, all right, we're gonna have X amount of time. Like you've got
20
this
minutes.
much time before
you better call Gorbachev.
Yeah,
and figure this out.
dude, it'd be like if you're with your buddy and you're like, we're gonna steal the candy bar. Like you've got 2 minutes to distract, Gino over there before he goes, what's going on behind? Like that's because you figured it. He's smarter than you, so he will know that there's something behind it. With this, it's really
frustrating.
Didn't care about that. How about, did they even acknowledge?
Can I ask this? Or is this a dumb question? How did they build or plant the ships if there was the bacteria? Because that would have taken probably a week, and they were only there for a week before they got destroyed.
We don't need to get.
I think that's a movie mystery that we're not meant to think about.
No, it really.
I'm sorry. What's your name, Sam? Okay, don't ask those questions again.
Sam, yeah, shut the fuck up. Thanks. No, because
It's a very good question.
yes, Kyle.
What did we hire you as? Continuity supervisor? No, we hired you as camera operator 4.
Yeah, get in the goddamn truck. No, because it's like one of those things you're like watching. It's like, well, how did they even get here? Like they shoot the lightning into them, but like, where did the machines come from? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't really.
can't.
It's from 1898, dude. Like and Spieley didn't have enough wherewithal to be like, let's adapt some of this stuff.
Hey,
Like,
let's put all of the exposition on Crazy Tim Robbins to explain how these aliens got here and what they're doing. And you're just
Tim
like,
Robbins.
everybody's just sitting there like, yeah, the special
they've been
effects
here
are
for
good.
1,000 years.
Yeah.
They're coming to take us.
We're like maggots and they're like a big golden retriever. You're like, what are you talking about, dude? What does he say? Ants?
This isn't.
And
this is no more of a war between men and maggots.
Okay, yeah.
Which is like some like and I don't know if you even needed to say that like in the broadcast because they say it and it's like, yeah, no, that's a great revelation. But at this point, like you've seen everything going on. It's like, hey,
you understand the
thanks,
weight of it.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, you got that.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks for letting us know. We didn't know before.
I didn't realize that the
Appreciate
army
it.
couldn't take them out. Do they explain how Robbie got back, or do they just kind of gloss over that with a hug?
he
and,
just comes back.
He's just,
It's the speed run Spielberg
Bro!
ending.
Yeah.
And again, like
It's speed run and contestant
I
number
would've
4. What do we
loved
have?
it from-
Robbie.
From if you started from point A and you ended at point B, nothing changes. No care. The only thing that changes is he's like, "Hey, I think I'm gonna be a good dad." It's like,
No, you don't even have that sense.
you know,
He's
that's
walking.
like the movie Parenthood or Big Daddy.
Dude,
like, except now you have an alien invasion, and it just happens.
As the backdrop.
Okay.
Nobody dies. Nobody gets
Think
hurt.
about it.
Everybody's fine.
Like if you're a deadbeat dad and like you have like the accident on the highway, you save your kids. There's like a big moment, and you have that revelation of like, oh shit, like there's a big. Do you think Tom Cruise, when all that kind of said and done, is like making phone calls to them and like, hey, bring them over on this week and you're going out of town, I'll take them in? Or is he just back to like union regulations, Jerry?
Yes.
Can't do it.
They said after 9/11 happened, like, you know, everybody was like, I'm going to church every day.
Yeah.
And they said it surged for about 2 months, and then within a year,
Life
everybody
came
was
back.
Yeah, New
Yeah.
York was, get the
Yeah.
out of the road, you son of a, you know.
Yeah, Diamondbacks won the series, and everyone in New York took a fucking bat to their TV.
I do have 10 things that would make this film a classic.
Oh my god, 10 of them.
Well, any one of them.
You've got like 30 seconds to read off that list of 10.
All right, I'll just read my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, we probably should wrap this up.
Yeah, I was about to
soon.
say we're getting into this is dangerous territory with this one.
When I mentioned earlier the payoffs I wanted.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple of them. Ready? Earlier in the film, he mentions, hey, my brother's the smart one or whatever. He mentions his brother a couple of times.
It's a joke.
Why make that joke? Like you're
'Cause he
introducing
doesn't know
Wouldn't
any-
that be great if his brother was the Tim Robbins character, or he was going to see his brother, or somehow that did anything to the movie? Obviously, I've harped on using the crane, which probably is lame, but him using his motor skills,
He's
or
on that cast,
automotive
Tim
or
Robbins.
engineering.
He did with the car. He told the guy to
Outside
change the
of that,
solenoid,
like with
and
the
he
alien,
drove
at some point to kill an alien or something. He figured out a way to escape the situation, which is kind of lazy. Like it's like, all right, how do we get these characters out there? Oh, what if Tom Cruise is really smart with cars? It's like, come on, dude. The next one, baseball. Like they're throwing around the baseball. Would have been nice if Robbie threw it. And
yeah, I thought
did
there was going to be more
something.
with baseball
Like,
after
or
that
them
scene.
throwing an
you guys
object.
dude, that's
Like him throwing their grenade and maybe it hitting
he's
a
trying
certain part.
to show the relation, like, because that's like the most American thing you can do, right? Is play catch with your kid. They're trying to show how bad the relationship is. They can't even do that without him breaking his window to his house.
Mom, stepdad, grandparents, they just like showed up, dropped the kids off. You never saw them again until the very end. It's like, why do we even care to see you again? Like, why are you going to these people?
They probably just put him at the end so that Tom Cruise has like a
More
positive outcome at the end, or like he comes out at a net positive. He's like, oh, I've saved my kids, kind of, even though Robbie like effed off on his own and showed up.
Robbie,
literally, both kids ran away from him while the world's falling apart because they thought their odds were better to either go with the military or Rachel was like, aliens, please abduct me. She's pulling what Robbie did and that pile of mud on the
that's
side
kind
of
of
the
like
road.
a funny point.
They're both like,
He's so fucking
get me
worthless.
away
They
from this
wanted
loser.
it.
Yeah.
They thought their odds were better on their own than with him. All right.
Then the
man.
last payoff is the cool looking vegetation that I said from earlier. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
it looked cool. Like, do something.
I would
with
have liked
it.
to see that in like different environments or like something.
How cool would
Yeah.
have been if he actually traveled like south and so it got warmer and maybe it was like
You're
thicker
all in
and
the warm
greener.
climate, dude.
Or he goes cold and he thinks that's gonna freeze. All he did, he went from New Jersey to New York to Boston. Like, it's War of the Worlds. Why am I crazy for wanting to see like Egypt and other places? Like,
one, because
War of the Worlds.
they're wiping out the entire population and they did it within 24 hours. So like, how far do you think you'd get? You think if from Muskegon, like the world, like you're in that world, you'd make it down to Mexico?
I'm not going Mexico. Everybody and their mom knows that I'm going to the Upper Peninsula and I'm just tracking Lake Michigan all the way north, fresh water,
Tim
fish.
Robbins, dude. That's Tim Robbins.
You're Tim Robbins in
You're
this situation.
literally Tim Robbins in this whole thing.
Okay, that's all I got.
All right.
All right.
I'll keep it.
So we can wrap this up. What
Yeah,
would you guys
yeah.
rate this movie?
Dude, it's so tough. I think originally I had this as a 6. I am bumping it up. It's like a 7, almost an 8 for me. I can't tell you, and the reason why I wanted you guys to watch it now that we're all just, the first hour, I couldn't believe how well done it was and how much I was invested in this movie to how quickly Spielberg pulled the fucking cloth off the table and all that glass shattered.
Yeah, he Spielberged it hard.
Like,
at the
really bad. And I was like, is it the basement scene? Is Tim Robbins off? One of the, and I know we're wrapping it up, but I was like, one of the funny things to me was with the fucking tripod is like drunk swiveling around, and Tom Cruise has to explain to the army that it's weak.
Doesn't he do the thing like, you shoot it? And he mimes a gun.
He's like, the
because it's
shields
so
are
loud.
down. Shoot it. Shoot
Yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah,
like
he's like using his finger as like a gun.
And
like,
but you talk about pointless though. Even if they don't, that thing still falls down and dies, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's-
that was like one of the ones I was like watching this. I was like, "There's fat right there that we didn't even need him to shoot it. It was going down. Look how fucked up it is."
How could you imagine if this movie ended with Dakota Fanning in that basement? And she opens her eyes and Tim Robbins pats her on the head and he's like, "You're gonna be okay."
Oh, that would have been a darker.
And
like,
then
Spielberg
the
couldn't do
alien
that.
starts coming down over his shoulder and he's just like grinning and holding an axe and it just goes to black. I mean, as unpopular as that would be, at least it would be something. Like,
Talk about it. Tom Cruise is out. I mean, that would have been a lot of talk, but it's Spielberg. So, anyways, I'm giving it a 7, almost an 8, just because of the first hour. Like it really, I could watch that first hour, I think, over and over again, and I don't think it'd ever lose any sort of suspense or tension with me watching it.
Yeah. What about you, Sam?
I'll say this, and I was telling Mackie this earlier today, but the year 2005 that this came out was one of the worst years of film ever. I think this actually is a top 5 movie of that year, and for me, it's probably like somewhere between a 7 and an 8 out of 10. I love you guys introduced the negative ratings, and for me, this would be like a 6 out of 10 actual film, but like enjoyably, this is a minus 8.5 for me. So this is an 8 out of 10 for me because I always go with the higher number for my IMDb, and I rate everything. So I'm actually going to make that change right now. It went from 7 to an 8. and I'm okay with that because this is very enjoyable. And as you could, you heard how much I have to say on this, so that to me is an important film. But yeah, I think it's important to see the any of the War of the World stuff because it's such a prolific property.
Yeah,
and this and the broadcast are the two best versions after all my research.
100%. And that's where I'm like, so what do you?
I would give this a 7 out of 10.
Whoa, really?
I'd probably say it's closer to a 6
Yep, that's
than
what
an 8.
That's why I was kind of like, whoa, I thought you gave it a 6.
Wow, we're all in the. I'm probably the highest one, and I thought it was probably the worst. But I enjoyed it so darn much.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, dude, it's hard to because you're probably looking at the film as a whole. You're like, you thought the whole thing, like you said, it's flawed. Bad screenwriting. I mean, like the characters, like they're halfway there, but they never. I'm sure none of them arc out. Like you never feel like that closure. Like, oh man, like Tom Cruise learned a lot. Like,
overall, it was something that I enjoyed, but I cannot ignore the blatant flaws that it has.
So bad
as a whole picture, like as a whole film.
That's what I'm saying. I chop it up, and that's what I'm saying. This is like one of the movies, like a Jurassic Park. Like I could watch the first hour of this and be like. Not to say Jurassic Park, you could watch the whole thing, but like there are moments in it where you're like, oh shit, like I could watch that on repeat every day and never lose that. Like, and that's probably, but I was about to say, you're looking at it as a whole though, and Tim Robbins just kind of.
Yeah, Tim Robbins is in that hole.
Yeah.
Something fierce.
Awesome.
So yeah, I guess we can move on to our. So the title is The Beginning, Making Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Is the official title of this documentary, I'd probably say, right?
Yes.
Did you want to explain what this is, Sam?
So this was my pick for a movie, and the reasons I picked it is I'm a Star Wars fan. So, I wanted to talk something about Star Wars, and nobody has watched this movie because it's a special for like a DVD release on Phantom Menace. But it's on YouTube, and it's an hour and 6 minutes or something like that.
Hours and change,
Yeah, so I thought it's an easy watch, and it's something that anybody listening can go and watch. And for me, this is like, because Phantom Menace is one of the most prolific, controversial, anticipated movies of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very, very... very highly scrutinized film, and it's a behind the scenes, and it's just raw footage. There's very few talking heads, if any, and you're just seeing them make this film. And
I don't think there's any talk. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think they pull anyone. It's literally just like, hey, we've got 10 hours worth of film, cut it up and put it, and then they got it.
There's like maybe a couple of times where somebody's talking to the camera about something,
but it's like while they're entrenched in the process of making
it'd be over the soundboard, and it's like, I mean, I just twist this thing, and it kind of, like it's gonna bump it up a little bit, and then like the guy in the editing bay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was pissed at. We'll get into it.
Yeah, I got. I mean, I went hard into this thing because I for me, every single scene in this thing is you could have a discussion on. It's enjoyable. Like there isn't 1 second in this thing where I'm like, so. It goes, and the reason I think it's so important, and I would say for anybody.
Hold on, describe the film first, and then we'll get into.
Well, it's the making of Star Wars, and and I'm saying the reason it's so important is it goes from start to finish of making a movie. It literally, the only thing you don't see in movie making process is
the budget,
the screenwriting.
Oh.
But you see him storyboarding, and it goes through chronologically all the way to it ends with him. Well, the release of the film, the critic review of the film, and then the last shot is him sitting down to write episode 2, which I thought was the dumbest. I'm like, you didn't even plan the second Star Wars before you did this. Like, now you're going to write it?
That was, I think.
And he's dying. He has no idea where he's going with the story. He's got the pencil and the thing, and it's like,
do you think that was organic, or do you think they're like, let's have the last shot?
Let's have the last shot. We need this. Because he's sitting there like, I don't know where we're going. Like, no clue.
It's like the ending of one story, the beginning of another is like the tone of like what I got from that.
That's how I got. Yeah,
If you thought
that's
that
the only
was
cliche part of the film,
Yeah.
I thought was like I was like, oh,
if you thought that was overwhelming, I'm gonna do it again and again
and again.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So I'm admittedly not very big into Star Wars. Like the only Star Wars experience I have is a few episodes of The Mandalorian that I watched with my friends, and then we never watched it again. And then the last half of episode 3, which is of course the infamous like Anakin goes to the dark side, like fights Obi-Wan, like all the meme stuff basically.
Oh, the lava scene.
Yeah. The high ground scene, you know. It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. You underestimate my power.
Who's better, Christian Hayden or Ravi?
Oh my god, who's more emo? I mean, between those two,
oh my god,
like they just cut my life into pieces. Like that's just where they took them.
Yeah,
all we got to do is put eyeliner on them, and everyone will relate.
I'm curious. Number one, what is your impression of The Phantom Menace after watching this from start to finish?
So I know a little bit about like what that movie's deal is. Like people joke about it all the time, like, oh, it's space politics. If you really like space politics, you'll love Phantom Menace. I think it's probably a little more than that. Like there's a lot I think that there's wrong with the movie. Obviously I haven't seen it, so I can't really judge for myself, but to me, watching this made me realize just like how little people know a movie's going to turn out like during the movie making process, and then like you really don't know how it's going to go until like pretty much the very end of it.
Right.
Like there's so much that goes into it. There's so many moving pieces. There's so many different like factors that people don't consider, like the weather, like that scene where they're in the desert and they have all those.
Did you guys know that the planet could get that hot? And they were filming a movie that, like, I'm thinking.
I felt so bad for Jar Jar.
Oh yeah, Ahmed Best.
Dude,
him in that getup.
They were showing him they had some chick getting paid to fan him, and then it just says it's 134 degrees, and he's just like sitting there staring out
in a rubber suit in the desert. I mean, can you imagine how good of shape you need to be in to not die?
How about the guy, dude, the assistant director? So
my gosh,
and then he's in a long sleeve and
you
short.
mustn't think about the heat.
Yes, it's a frame of mind.
He's a sea bag.
Oh,
he's one of the. But Natalie, dude, that whole sequence, because she's talking to him and he's like, "Man, they said it's gonna get hot today," and she's like, "They actually said it's gonna get hotter than it was yesterday," and it's like at like dawn, like it's really early in the morning, and
they're shooting it was 9 a.m.
Oh man,
and then 104 degrees.
Yeah, and then it keeps going, and it says like 114, and I'm like, I honestly was like, wow, 114 degrees, and then it says 134 degrees,
yeah,
and he's sitting there with one of those little propeller fans, and somebody's like spritzing him with water. And
have you seen The Shining?
Yes.
Remember when Jack Torrance is staring out in the window and like there's something's going on but nothing's there, and you're just kind of like, what? That's how he was looking when he was in his Jar Jar outfit. Like,
yeah,
I felt so like that's the most. I was like
he's just checked out.
Damn, dude. Oh, and checked out. Like I'm struggling to live.
I mean, that was seriously really dangerous. Like,
yeah,
and you're
very
worried
dangerous
about him. And I'm just sitting there like I couldn't believe that they were filming a movie in that heat. And the one thing I realized with this, but you know how like now they have Benedict Cumberbatch playing a dragon, or Bradley Cooper playing a raccoon, or these notable famous actors playing this is because watching this documentary, you're seeing the guy play Jar Jar Binks. George Lucas doesn't even know his name in the beginning, and he's like, no, you're gonna kind of walk like this, and throughout, George Lucas realizes, oh my gosh, this guy is actually, I don't even know his name, and he's one of the 5 biggest cast members I have.
So I don't know if you remember, but they're talking about the storylines at some point. Jar Jar was the second or third one referenced.
Oh,
yep.
Like,
man.
Right from the get-go, George
and
Lucas says...
And they have a jobber playing him.
Yeah. George Lucas says, if we can make Jar Jar work,
yes,
Jar Jar is the key to everything.
And he's because he's a humor. Star Wars hasn't had humor before.
Yeah.
He's the humor of Star Wars.
C-3PO, not funny. Han Solo, how dare you?
Yeah.
Jar Jar is the key to all of this.
Jar Jar is the key.
That was his vision. So, I mean, you kind of do get to see where there might be going wrong, too, where it's like, we didn't get Jar Jar down, and we think he's going to save the film. Like,
And that's why they're paying Josh Brolin, hey, you're going to $30 million, you're Thanos. Because you're going to be in that makeup chair for 4 hours a day, and the director has to work with you directly, and you are a key piece, even though you're really not in the film. You know, you're CGI, but we need your best.
Yeah. No, it was a good point. I mean, but how about the best is like when they get to the very end, so they did all the shots with Jar Jar, and then they're like, oh yeah, it just does look better animatronically. We'll just go with that. Like that guy was out in 130. That's probably what he was thinking. Like when he was just staring out into space, is like, I'm like gonna get cut from this.
None of this is gonna matter.
And I know you don't know this, but in the next couple of films, they write him out. And it was probably...
I think I did hear that, yeah. He has, like, very little scenes because people did not react kindly to him. He was very poorly received.
In all honesty, he might be one of the top 10 most hated characters in the history of cinema.
No, there was some poll that went out. He was top 5, like... it wasn't most useless, but like whatever it is to tarnish a film. Yeah. You know?
Top 5 characters that ruin a movie or something.
Yeah. But it's also like if you're George Lucas, you're like, I just put myself in a bind because I've got this guy that I don't even know his name playing this character and doing the voice, and I can't turn this around. And and everybody hates it. So yeah. I know that the next film will get better received just by not even really acknowledging. Yeah, I know, it's sad and weird, but
whatever. He was a director, and he said Jar Jar's gonna make or break this film. Like he called it out.
You've seen the Plinkett review stuff?
Oh yeah.
Have you seen a Red Letter Media Plinkett review?
No, I've come across their like thumbnails, but I haven't really like watched any of their stuff.
It's almost worth it even if you haven't seen it, because it just from a storytelling standpoint, the guy's very smart in how and he talks about writing and stuff like that. Which that's nice, but that's how I got put onto this movie and saw it on YouTube. And there's some sound bites in there. Like where Spielberg and Lucas are standing on the air. They're like,
can I go time out real quick? Yeah. Like, how awesome is it that you're George Lucas and your best friend Steven Spielberg is just gonna come on set and you're gonna nerd out about the drone, and it's just
Spielberg at the time is doing Saving Private Ryan, so he's like, all right, I got this battle scene's really rocking my eyeballs. What do you got on the set there? A robot for me to look at?
Dude, like I was like, I wish I was like that big, to where I was like, oh hey, Mac Parker's over here, and it's just like, holy shit, that guy. It's like, yeah, that it's Mac. Like he's just coming over, like. Dude, your buddy Steven Spielberg's just gonna come on set. Let me just kind of check something out in the hangar, and then I'm gonna head back, and just casually throw him in there, dude, that was amazing to me. It was just like, let's get you two guys on the camera real quick. Steven's gonna drop by. We'll just film you guys. He's Steven fucking Spielberg, and he's just like on set with George Lucas, and
they're acting like buddies. He's like, that's great. It's gonna be great. That's great. It's gonna be great.
I was gonna point that out.
It's gonna be great.
He like just repeats the same 2 phrases.
Yeah, it was. It's gonna be great. That's great. It's gonna be.
They probably did have him like in a spot because they were trying to hype it up a little bit. Like I bet you that wasn't organic because it's at like 6 a.m.
No chance. Steven Spielberg, and I think the cool thing about this movie, because nobody knows how the actual Phantom Menace is going to be, everybody is geeking out Star Wars, and he's like, just like, this is a robot you're using for the movie? Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like everybody's like that. There's only like 4 or 5 people, and we'll get into them in a minute, but there's like only a handful of people that really know what this thing's going to turn out to be. And when they realize it, or like everybody else is just,
you're buying into the hype.
Completely.
Star Wars, the name Star Wars will save this film.
And the opening scene, the opening shot is George Lucas being interviewed by like CNN or some 60 minutes, and he literally, he like says something along the lines of this will work or I'll die trying. Like he's literally like an old gunslinger, like, I'm not rest until this thing works. And he's the hero of this. He's the protagonist of this film.
He's a visionary. I'm gonna say that he's a visionary in this thing. He had an idea about what he wanted to do, and now, like, looking back, I mean, it's kind of awful.
He's very much in the driver's seat, but whether or not like like the people all in the car with him know where he's going is like a different story.
And
right?
I'll say something along the lines of that later, because there's a time where it really pops up where you realize, oh shit, that's why this thing's gonna fail. Like that's why it did fail. But I shouldn't say maybe it didn't. I don't know. But I mean, like at the time, like you say, revolutionary. Like we don't think of 2001 because now we have CGI. I mean, Thanos is around, so like we live in a world of CGI. Everything's but back then, like that was really big for what they were trying to do, which was what he did in the 70s when he did all that stuff.
Well, shit. I mean, like Toy Story came out 3 years before that or something.
So 95 Toy Story comes out, and they start production on this movie, I think 97.
Yeah, that's what.
Which is crazy.
Yes.
Which is insane. Because like Toy Story is like one of the first like 3D animated feature movies.
Yes.
And it's like we've all seen Toy Story. How robotic is it? Like,
yeah.
It's not like, oh man, like we're gonna portray people out in space in a
like
fighter
they're
jet.
They're portraying like cartoon toys.
Toys that like look acceptable,
not like
in
real
that CGI
people,
environment.
real life, and stuff like that. So it's just really it's amazing to see them on the forefront of special effects. And
He was probably, if he would have waited 5 years, that could have been really like.
yeah,
That's
done.
the thing. He was
It's
trying to
called
like
Attack of the
revolutionize
Clones.
it. Yeah, he was trying to push forward the technology to like the breaking point.
It's like a student film. It's like an experimental. Like that's
Well,
Phantom Menace, and you're seeing it here.
Wars.
Yeah.
Like he did that with Star Wars and it worked. So I mean, there's nothing in his head why this wouldn't work except his ego.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was very confident in himself to like make it work, no
Yes.
matter like what the outcome, I guess.
What's the obstacle? I'm overcoming it. We're gonna make
Except
it work.
the budget and the scheduling.
Oh my gosh! Well,
Yes.
the first thing you see, and it really sets the tone for the whole documentary. But they're doing the storyboarding, and he has 3 colors of highlighters, and you can hear a pin drop, and everybody is like, the tension is so high, and all he's doing is doodling, like coloring on
real, fake.
Yeah,
Real or
this
fake.
is real. This is fake. This is real. This is
And then
fake.
blue would be, what can we do? Is it gonna be like Jar Jar might have been blue? Like, all right, let's see if it's real. Let's see if we can do it fake.
Yeah.
And I wrote down the names of all of these guys, by the way. Like, so anybody that appeared on screen, I got the guy's name and to like, who's this character or whatever.
Who's this character? It's a real life person. They aren't acting. Like this is just them.
Yeah.
We're
So,
watching them make this thing.
Jeff Olson is the guy, the bald guy with the big eyes that is just around all the time.
Yep.
And he like gulps when he's like starting to color. And then
Senator Palpatine.
He always looks worried. He
Yeah,
looks like
he's-
Tim Robbins in War of the Worlds.
He's real like Tim Robbins.
Yeah.
And he like George Lucas screws up, and then everybody like just needs to break the tension, so they're all like, start laughing. Like it's the funniest thing ever that he made something blue and it should have been pink.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. It's like when the corporate heads at the place you're working at come into work and everybody's laughing at like a stupid joke they said.
just because there's nothing else.
It wouldn't
Yeah.
even be. No, it'd be like if they were like, we're gonna put the gondola right there, and it's like, well, we can't because that's a display kit. It's like, oh, didn't that just go out in the first quarter review? They're like, yeah. It's like, hey, we're all human, and it's like, yes,
Yeah.
And then you get the first time I saw Rick McCallum,
he's
the
a star of
producer.
this show.
I saw Ewan last week in Prague.
Oh yeah.
Or you said Liam? I talked to Liam last week
Yeah.
in Prague.
Yeah.
Like the way he talks.
Dude, he was the guy that when they were talking about needing more money, when he shuffled off into that
like,
room,
immediately takes off.
I was like, oh shit, like he's gonna go make some calls and get more money. I was like, this is a guy that watched Star Wars when he was 20, bought like,
Yes.
his first studio, and it was like, I'm no matter what, if George ever wants to do this again, we're doing it.
And you want to know how much he puts into this thing? Go look at him in this, the very first shot,
Oh, I've seen the
and then see him in Revenge of the Sith.
YouTube one for the third one popped up, and
How
I
much
saw
weight
him,
do you
like,
think he put on? Like 100 pounds,
And
he put. I'm not kidding you. 100 pounds he had to have put on, and he's like balding.
yes, yeah,
And
it was
that's within 6 years.
Wow.
Oh yeah, he probably
The
forced
insane
into
amount of stress.
They made more. I bet you they'd made more money with the action like figure sales than they did with the movie.
Merchandising
don't worry, he's
crazy.
He doesn't have to work.
No, he doesn't. But you definitely know he was like, well, I fell about 8% short of what I projected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's the star. Like
Lucas
is the protagonist, and he's like the sidekick.
He was my favorite. Anytime he popped on, I was like, he's the one that's most invested. He's just as invested as George is. And I was like, I wonder where this is going to go every time he pops on, because you're going to get the authentic, like, because Lucas has to be like, oh, we're good. Like, we'll figure this out. We can cut it in post. Let's get over. Because
he's weird. And there's like one part where he's like walking through the warehouse, and somebody's like, "Bye, George," and he's like, okay, bye.
Yeah,
and it's
you're
the heart of this whole thing.
He's super awkward when interacting with people. Like, you just get the sense that he just doesn't really know how to.
Yeah, the Jar Jar guy.
Ahmed Best.
I'm gonna. You gotta. And it's more. It's like
no, you're more like this.
Like a more like this, and like people have to take these vague ideas of like what he's trying to get across and like kind of run with it, because he's the one that's in control. Like, it's his ideas. Yeah, this is a very fascinating watch for me.
Well, how about the casting of Anakin, where he's...
That, I was going to bring that up next. That made me really sad to watch.
Who did you think was They had 3 kids there, and 2 of them I recognized, and then there was, like, obviously Jake Lloyd, who turns out to be Anakin, right? But do you remember? He's, like, sitting there, and George Lucas is like... this kid hits all the notes and he's right on, but
I thought they were going to give it to the blonde kid.
Yeah,
like,
he was
that's the one that he was like...
Yeah, that's the kid that should have been cast. You mean who read the lines right then and there and didn't stutter?
Dude,
and like...
okay, in all fairness...
I don't mean to be hard on it.
No, but I'm saying, like, in all fairness, does this thing change if they don't cast Jake Lloyd? No. Like, you can't... It's an 8-year-old actor that doesn't know much about emotions.
But I just thought it was so interesting because I thought that kid was clearly better than Jake Lloyd's performance, and it just gave me insight to his decision making.
Yes.
Okay, I have no idea what he's looking for, because I thought the other kid hit the spot, was way better.
Yeah.
They might have been going with like, all right, who's more like cute on screen versus we actually need him to read the lines, because Lloyd messes up one of his lines, like very first thing he calls it Kirpasant instead of Kirasan or whatever, and it's like
he has like kind of a minor meltdown, and he's like, you guys are all, like, where they're actually shooting, he's like, and everybody's gonna laugh at me, and they're like, no,
he's like, it's really tough. It's funny too, because he goes, it's really hard to coach an 8-year-old and kind of direct him on where to go with acting, and then like after talking about this is like, you just don't know how to relate to humans. Like, anyone's probably hard for you to fucking
it was hard for him to talk to Ahmed Best, who seems like the chillest dude.
That dude smoked a blunt before, and not say that because of what's going on, but like, he was like very relaxed and was like,
that's who you want to play Jar Jar Binks. You don't want somebody that's like wound up on pills or something.
He had the cakest job in the
downers.
world. Like, I'm gonna do like a weird voice, and you're not gonna even see my face. Like, sweet, I'm in a Star Wars movie.
He had the cakest job until they dragged him out to that scorching desert.
Oh, dude, I felt so.
I've
never felt so bad for someone. Well, I mean, I'm
serious. Did you guys know that it gets to 134 degrees?
Yeah, I mean, but it. Yeah,
like specifically that, like, you think hot, like the desert. I didn't know that.
The camera doesn't really portray that all that well, because like they're like, we're hot. I'm thinking like, it's like 90 or something.
I don't know. I just feel like they threw that number on there because like the assistant
Chris Newman is that assistant director that's like, just think that some people would pay millions of dollars to get out here.
It's 134 degrees. He was out there in like the long sleeves and the shorts. I was like, how hot is it really? Because like, the guy in the suit's dying, but you're out here in your white long sleeve.
Because that guy got hired, and the first scene that you see him in, he's like laughing with George. He's like, I assume that you're just going to call action. And he's like, and if I forget, you just let me know, right? And he's like laughing. Within like the next time you see him, he realizes, he's like, oh my gosh, I should be directing this movie. This guy is not nearly, and he turns into the like the funny cap and the big mega horn old school director of the 20s, action
kind of becomes a stereotype.
Yeah, and he's on show in that in the desert, like just waltzing around.
I don't know. I had a hard just seeing his attire. I was like, I don't know how hot it is, or if that guy's just like a fucking masochist. Like,
yeah,
I want to feel what Jar Jar's feeling right now.
I feel like going back to Jake Lloyd. I feel really bad for him because he got this role. He's just a kid. Like he doesn't really have much control over like what's happening with this movie. He's thinking to himself, "Oh, cool! I get to be in this really awesome like Star Wars movie, like sci-fi. I get to play this character. I'm going to be famous. Blah blah blah." And it like really negatively affected his life. Like he's like paranoid schizophrenic.
Yeah,
he got like relentlessly bullied because of the Phantom Menace. Like it really did a number on his life, and I feel like
ruined his career. Obviously, like
just he had Jingle All the Way after that, didn't he?
I think that was before.
Jingle All the Way was 96.
Damn.
But I mean, he back-to-back performances in two of the most scrutinized, movies of the 90s.
Yeah.
That you would see probably both those on like the worst 10 movies of the 90s. And he's front and center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I don't think people really think about the implications of casting kids like these for these movies, and then like the implications of it later on in their life. Like they don't really think about like how it's going to affect them. Like, and that's why so many child actors are so messed up, because they just throw them in front of these cameras and then people scrutinize them. Like people are huge assholes. Like they're super harsh and like they're really critical of this like kid who doesn't know
look
what he's
at me.
doing.
I mean, we're revealing this and I'm like, they should have went with the other kid. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's
right, but
that's what it is.
You're not saying the kid's stupid.
A child actor is still an actor, so they're doing the job of an adult acting.
It's psychology. I mean, you're taking an 8-year-old kid that doesn't even have the concept of anger yet and what could make him angry, and all of a sudden now you're allowing millions of people to dictate his confidence and his perception of his own self. Yeah, of course it's gonna. Now, the reason why I'm like, all right, it did, but like the other token is, and even you said it, no one knows how these things are gonna end up. And it's unfortunate that it did happen to him, and maybe Jingle All the Way had the reason why he was kind of where he was a little timid and unsure of himself in the film itself.
Yeah,
good point. That might have like kind of stifled his acting chops or held him back. Like, you called your dad a loser in that movie. Don't forget, and Schwarzenegger. So.
You're such a loser.
All because he wouldn't get Turbo Man.
I'm out there right Christmas Eve, by the way.
Okay, we don't need to get into Jingle All the Way, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things. So if Lucas had gone the other way, I don't think, honestly, in my opinion, no one here is remembering Anakin and being like, God, that kid was bad. Like to me, it's just like you could have put any face in that spot.
Yeah.
That kid's
You're
whoever. Right. And I'm going to say, like, so for me, just kind of pivoting off of this, because one of the things that caught my eye is when about 3/4, maybe like 50 minutes into this thing, like gearing up towards the end, they're talking about they're getting all the shoots done, they're wrapping everything up, they're kind of trying to figure out editing and whatnot. And Lucas is sitting there and he goes, I mean, we're telling the story. We got the Trade Federation. We're trying to explain Jar Jar's character introduction. We're the story of Anakin Skywalker. We're trying to save Coruscant. We've got Obi-Wan and what's his Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Like we're trying to figure out, and we want to have the.
Are you talking about when Ben Burt is saying that, like after they watch it for the first time?
Lucas is saying this out loud. He lists off like 5 or 6 big storyline things that are happening.
Where he's like, I took a little too far.
Yeah, and he's like, see if we can reel this in. And then
I love that quote. I may have gone too far in a few places.
Yeah, in a few places.
And then you start thinking about it, it's like
further than I've ever pushed it.
Dude, he took 6 like easily stories that you could segue. Like if this was the multiverse, would like segue this way and this way and this way, and like, we're gonna bring all of this together. That's why this thing was so much bigger than what he could have did, because you can't attach yourself to any one of the characters. They're all
they do it in the Plinkett review. Who's the main character of the Phantom Menace?
Obi-Wan.
But he's really not.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about with this. Is like that's why Lucas failed, because you could easily say, oh, we're gonna follow Jar Jar. Well, Jar Jar doesn't do anything. Like he's the next
comic
C3PO,
relief. Yeah.
right? Which is he's useless. we're gonna develop Anakin Skywalker, and we're gonna kind of show the prelude into him becoming Darth Vader, right?
Well, he's just a little kid,
And
he really doesn't do anything.
Literally doesn't do anything. He's in like all of 6 minutes of the film, right?
No, well, the pod races.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, and then it's like, well, we got Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon's gonna teach Obi-Wan how to, become like a Jedi master, and we're gonna kind of that relationship goes nowhere. They're probably the most characters you care about just because Qui-Gon could look like your dad, right? That's about it. Mm-hmm. And like you have all these things going on that Lucas was trying to do, and it's like, oh shit, like that's why this movie was set up for failure. He grabbed all these things out of the toy bin and was like, we're just going to cram them onto this, and thought he could make it work.
He bit off way more than he could chew.
Well,
yes.
Way more than he could chew. They had an 850,000 square foot Rolls-Royce factory where they had people working in shifts for the props of this movie.
Yeah.
For a week straight.
Not a week straight. Like
I thought
months.
It was like
No.
Okay.
But, I mean, a whole factory.
24 hours a day, 3 different shifts.
Three shifts of people just making props for this movie. I mean, that's Nike.
Well, they were getting paid.
That's Under Armour,
Mm-hmm.
And they really set the tone early on in how big this thing is. And obviously, like, they have their own offices at LIM, Lucas Instruments, whatever.
Oh yeah.
But that meeting where the guys sit down to go over the budgets
Best.
and his name,
I can't believe they showed that.
oh my gosh, and John Knoll, the guy who's like heading the visual, and he's like, I was a little bit of a troublemaker back in the day. And then in the middle of the meeting, Rick McCallum gets the phone call that Ewan McGregor's in, and it's like, from a football coach standpoint, it's like a 5-star recruit. And he's like, oh, this is awesome. Awesome, you know? And I just love that they just sat down there and we're going to run. We need, how much money did they say? Like,
I don't remember.
They had 150 million. Pretty sure it was 150 million because I was like watching. I was like, well, that's a big figure. And then they go, you got
for 90,
dude. They went.
Titanic was the first movie to cost $200 million, and that came out in '97. So that's happening just as they're doing this.
And I'm just telling you right now, dude. The first oh shit moment I ever saw on camera was at that budget meeting. They go, you got 150 million, and you're scheduling this. We're building out the schedule for you've got 8 months of shooting or something like that.
By the way, 2 months before they're going to shooting is when they had that meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That they needed another $20 million.
That's insane.
And Lucas was like, you could see him okay, let's figure out where we can trim.
I'm kind of an artist. I'm not really.
I'm not a money guy. You just hand it to me and I make your shit. Dude, I thought it was really funny. I'm like, okay, Star Wars is coming back. Lucas is attached. We're going revolutionary. Revolutionary. It's gonna be fucking way, way bigger and grander. We're gonna cut the budget by 10%, and by the way, your scheduling is gonna be 8 months. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Isn't that? I was like, no wonder he was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
dude, how hard would that be? I don't know. I mean, I know business is like that, but it's maybe Cameron and Titanic, that pitch, he'd be like, no, but you guys gotta hear me out. I will make this much. It's like, James, we know you've been over it. It's the Titanic. Okay, we're giving you 180. It's like, you give me the 2, and they're like, okay, but we're gonna trim the schedule by 3 weeks. George Lucas, Star Wars is proven, and he comes in and it's like, remember when I did it in 77 and I made it kick ass? I'm taking it to the next level. Yeah. I'd be like, 250 million, take as much time as you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's fighting for every penny.
You've got a track record here. You can go. Yeah, so that was, I thought the budget.
But honestly, when you see the next scene where Ewan McGregor shows up and he's got the hair that should be for Obi-Wan, and then he's like, we're gonna shave it off and leave.
I know he's got such nice hair for when he shows up, and then they're
it's Highlander hair. It comes in super thick,
Scottish hair.
It's gonna sit up like that.
Yeah.
Real thick.
He grows it back out for the next movie, just like that.
Yeah,
well, I mean, they age him.
But you know what I'm saying? He goes back to having long hair. Why? Oh my gosh, just so many bad decisions
there's
that
a
you
lot
see.
of like just weird decisions. You mentioned that like in that budget meeting, that visual effects guy was there.
Yeah.
The one that like gets the goatee later.
Yeah,
I think.
John, yeah. But when they
Speaking
get
of
the
weird
ego,
decisions.
yeah, John Knoll, he grows
Speaking
the
of weird
goatee.
Well, like you see him pretty consistently throughout this documentary, which
Yeah.
to me that's an indication that this documentary is a lot of like, yeah, they're shooting a lot like they're showing what the filmmaking process is like, shooting the actual scenes. You know, Ewan McGregor hops up on this like post or whatever, and then hops up on this ledge, but to me, it was also an indication of a lot of this documentary focuses on like the post-production, like the like implementation of like the special effects and like how that's gonna work, and like they don't really know what it's gonna look like yet until they like really piece it all together. Like that to me was a big part of like what I got out of this documentary.
I was gonna say it's kind of funny because like when they're talking about stuff and. A lot of it's like we don't know how it's going to look.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
haven't used this technology yet.
Yeah, no,
and
it hasn't been invented yet. They're actually John Knoll and his staff are inventing the techniques that will be used.
Like they'll shoot scenes and then they'll be like, "All right, we're gonna figure this out later."
Yes.
Like a lot of what happens in this documentary is like them figuring it out later.
Yeah.
As a phrase, you know, whether it comes to like the special effects or like even the editing of scenes where they're splicing that guy to make it so that he doesn't move a certain way.
How about
they cut it in half? And they're like, so he's like, so now you've just multiplied the possibilities that you can have to do something. So it's like you're just piecing scene like shots together from other shots.
I'm not gonna lie though, like that guy kind of seemed like the guy that was like, I'm only here to do 6 hours of work. You've just made it 8.
You know what?
Like I really felt like I was like, that guy's
Ben Burt. Do you know what his? So he's the editor of this movie. He is a sound editor. I don't know why they had him as the editor of this. He is also the voice of Wall-E.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of...
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, like, so that's...
So you're telling me Wall-E edited this film?
Yeah.
That explains quite a bit. That explains a lot, actually.
He's probably in the same circumstance there. They're like, we need a voice for this robot. And he's just like...
I don't know.
Yeah.
He kind of made a good point where he was like, I mean, now... Well, here's my thing. He was like, now you're taking a guy... He's done this shot organically. He's in the moment doing this, but we're gonna take him and put him in this area in which he didn't even shoot for. Who knows what his actions would have been had we done the whole reshoot? And I'm like thinking, I was like,
you can tell he is like he's sitting there and he's like he's just so frustrated, stressed out. But they have on there, if you remember, it says this movie is coming out May 18th. 1999 no matter what.
Yeah.
And so you can tell he is like, because when it comes to making a movie, everything ends with the editor.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what the actors do or anything. It's up to the editor to put it all together, you know, put the puzzle together. And you can see his stress that this puzzle just went from being a linear deal to now being multilateral.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm confused then, because I thought editing did deal with splicing and taking like shots like that.
But I think like the notion of it is that like normally if you mess up a take, you would cut it and then reshoot that take to get an even better one, so that it's easier for the editor to put together in the editing bay.
Right.
Whereas what George Lucas was doing was he would take certain takes and there would be like something about it that would be off, whereas like instead of reshooting that take, he just said, oh, we can like splice this later and like have this guy like put in even more work than he would have before if we had just taken another take of it.
Well,
you know?
it's literally George Lucas going, I like what this actor's doing with his hand. It's not like the take is bad or anything. It's I like what Ewan McGregor's doing with his hand in this shot.
As opposed to,
I also like what the pilot is doing with his eyes in this other shot. So we're going to cut it in half and you're going to piece it together. So remember the storyboard he's doing at the beginning?
Yeah.
Now picture every one of those having the opportunity to be cut into half, into quarters, and to piece the best parts in with CGI over top. and then practical effects that they're also putting into it over that.
Yeah, that one that makes more sense.
So he's looking at it like every time that he has to use 2 shots on top of each other, he has to contact John Knoll with visual effects and be like, hey, you've got a CGI Jar Jar Binks into the background of this one because Lucas likes the way he walks into this one.
Yeah.
And then also, like, I mean, I'm getting stressed out just thinking about it.
And
like,
that's where I was kind of the level. I mean, because he does portray it that way, where he was like, he's just sitting there, and he finally gets to the point. He's like, I mean, it's exponential. Like,
yeah,
it was
he's
kind of like, I mean, you're talking like a whole new dimension with doing this, and I was like, all right, easy, like come on, nerd, like cut it and splice it, you know. But like now that when you say it like that, it's like, oh, I guess at any point Lucas comes in, and he's like, I like this, and this. I want them all together. Like, it's like, well, now I got to contact 4 more people so we can all make sure that this looks fine.
When I was when I was working as a PA, production assistant in DC, there was a time where like there was editors and they would just go into the editing bay and the producers sitting behind them and they'd be in there for like 10 hours a day. You don't see sunlight, and then you come out and you're working overtime. And this guy came out and he was in the lunchroom. I was just eating my lunch in the corner, and he takes his glasses off and he starts rubbing his eyes, and he yells at another producer that was in-house giving him work. He's like, starts rubbing his eyes like this. He's like, "You're killing me!" And he screamed at him. And we're talking like, this isn't a movie. It's like a CNN project. But he's like, I can't do it anymore. He's like, this is too much, dude. And so I
can see his. So
it's $150 million on his shoulder and his keyboards.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for Ben.
And it's not
Burr.
even really his job.
Well, and the director and Lucas is coming in and he's saying, "All right, I'm going to direct the editing process now."
Yeah,
and the more and more we talk about Lucas, he seems like a guy who is really checked out and trying to do much more than he should and doesn't care. Like, the more we kind of talk about him, I'm like, oh, they brought him back. He doesn't want to do it because he's living off Star Wars funds already. So he's just like, I'll give this my best shot, and we'll just figure it out as we go.
It's his vision, and he knows his vision the best, at least in his mind.
Because but he can't communicate
because he has to have control over it. Yeah, and he can't really like communicate because he's so awkward with people.
I want you to think about this too. I mean, you're bringing Star Wars back. You're doing it's revolutionary. I mean, you've got all this stuff going into it. Does he ever feel stressed? You ever see him kind of? And I know directors probably
I feel like he's not stressed enough.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
he
like literally tattooing.
Like, everyone else is stressed, but not him.
I'll bring it in a little bit. I know the point where he shows it. It's like the first emotion he has all the movie. But we're talking about like not communicating. I have in my notes, he refers to Jar Jar Binks, the actor Ahmed, as the guy we got and the guy in the suit. Like, when he's talking about it to other people, he's not like, Ahmad's doing a great job. He's like, the guy in the suit. It's like, that's what you
he's
say.
So detached.
That's what you say about the dude from Chuck E. Cheese.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Dude, I'm making a $150 movie. That guy over there, fucking mouse mascot.
The guy in the suit, he's good.
Oh, and by the way, he's gonna make or break the film.
Yeah,
that guy over there is what's gonna either save it or like.
He's the key to everything.
Jar Jar's the key to everything. What's that guy's name? The guy in the suit. And yeah,
Jar Jar. He's a great mascot.
He's doing a great job.
I'll tell you what. The key to everything was for me was Ewan McGregor's genuine joy for this, and the sword fighting.
The
scenes.
choreography was insane,
dude. And then you see the guy, the Darth Maul guy, has a shiner, Ray Park, I think his name is, and they're still like giving it socks, like boom, 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 boom.
The best part of this, not the best part. I mean, it's all great, but like one of the fun ones that I watched was Qui-Gon doing his choreography, and it's like,
oh yeah.
Ooh, and then you get the Obi-Wan, like Ewan and Darth Maul going at it, and I was like, oh man, like that's someone who cares.
Yeah. Ewan's putting his all into that movie,
and it's so like all that whole crew is the guy. Do the accent for the guy that's the because I know you can do where he does the twirl thing.
Oh, which one?
The stunt
coordinator guy who's like, give it a twirl or whatever, like where he's like, see how a twirl feels with that.
give it a twirl. Like, is that what you're looking for? I don't really remember too much.
He's got like that British Australian like
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where they're
now give it a twirl. Give it a twirl.
Yeah, they're picking out the handles for the sword.
It's almost like a prestigious like leveling up sort of thing. Ewan gets to pick his lightsaber handle
and
or whatever.
To make sure that it fit well.
Yeah,
he could really like.
I mean, all of that was and also I geeked out too because they're doing the scene where they're like. He needs to like jump up, but he can't have bounce, and we got to figure out this problem practically very fast. And they're like, well, let's just get a board and we'll throw him up there. And then you see Darth Maul like helping out. I'm like, they didn't have another stagehand,
right?
Like they have to have the Darth Maul guy up there.
They had the freaking they had all these people here working 3 shifts, 24 hours. Yeah, they probably didn't have enough hands to help out with it. The stunt coordinator was on the other side.
Yeah,
like he was helping him with the train, and then he's like, "All right, I'm going to do the board." And then they're like, "We need somebody," because I think the assistant director was over there too. For
they probably had Liam Neeson on the other side. It's a $150 million movie. Do you got anybody else to help throw him up there?
Liam, get over here. We've got 30 seconds to shoot. It's funny. You got to see Phantom Menace after you've seen this because you got to see. It is so how they show this, and it's like he jumps up, right, and it's like take good. That the whole movie is like it feels like cut out and pasted together. Like there is no continuity in this thing. There's no cohesion. Yeah,
like they talk. They get into the pod race deal in it, and the pod race itself. There's like what are the stakes behind it, and it's 20 minutes of the movie.
Wow, and they'd be a lot higher if the Jedi weren't involved, but they do like a thing where
he has to win to not be a slave anymore.
Right. I would say that's kind of high stakes.
Yeah, but like they don't explain it well. And like remember Qui-Gon's like he rolls the dice. He's like, or how about this? If he wins, I get the pod and him. And they go back and forth. It's really confusing.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of because Qui-Gon walked in and was like, I'm going to use my Jedi. And then Bulba. Oh, by the way, Sebulba or whatever, that actor, like he walked in. And I was like,
gosh,
who is this guy?
The voice actor guy that comes in and
I'll try to.
Oh yeah, that guy.
And he starts talking. He's like, yeah. So what are we looking for? We're looking for a little angry. Okay. So Bulba got and I was like, what? That's pretty good. Fuck. Because I was like, who is this guy?
It makes you really appreciate voice acting as an art form.
Oh my god! He sounds like he rips like 20 darts like a day. Like when he did it that way.
He's like, was that good?
Yeah, that's
yeah, and then he's like completely switches modes, is back to his normal self.
I mean, I thought from watching it though, the pod racing is probably the best part of that whole movie.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of going through, and what
are you doing over there?
I did it scene by scene, and I'm kind of keeping track. I'm sorry, I'm going scene by scene here.
He's got to talk about his stuff.
We got to get into. We talked about the shooting. The one thing that we forgot is the Ewan McGregor hopping up and this stuff. But the first day of shooting, the first Rick McCallum is hitting the sticks, and his quote is, "Good luck, everybody. Let's kick ass." Clap, Darth Maul, whatever, he's like dead sweat. Like, I hope this goes good.
Dude, he's the most invested. It's not just because of the money. He loves, I would genuinely guess that he has like a Darth Vader action figure
100%
above his bed at home now that he got when he was like
this
6.
This isn't a movie to him. It's life or death.
Yeah.
And he shows it.
No, the best is when he gets up there and when they're on like the what's the Anakin's home planet? It's not Tatooine, is it?
Man, I'm not. That's not my forte.
Really don't ask me.
Nerding out. But like when the set's all broken and he gets back, he's like, "Oh, this is bad. This is bad. Yep, this is." It's not good. It's fixable. This is bad.
No, he goes, "This is grim. Seriously grim."
Yeah,
I remember that.
That line was, "This is grim." And then he's like, "Okay, we'll fix it. This is grim."
He said the engines play the most crucial part in the movie.
Oh, he did. Oh,
So the director thinks Jar Jar is the key to everything, and he
they're
thinks the
so-
engines to the pod race is the most crucial part in the movie.
yeah. No, he's just saying stuff.
Oh my God. We should probably wrap this up a little bit since we're at like 2.5 hours.
Oh
Yeah. All right. So the last thing I want to say about this movie, and it's the most important part,
Yes.
in my eyes. But when they showed the rough cut review, and that's the climax of the movie.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
And Lucas starts off by saying they're like about to show it, and he goes, "All right, let's do this." And he rolls his
He
eyes.
sounds so unenthused.
And they get done, and then Ben Burt is explaining. He goes, within 90-second span, you have like kind of funny, with Jar Jar, lamenting the loss of a hero with Qui-Gon, and Anakin saving the day, and Princess Amidala trying to escape.
That's what I'm talking about with the story. Like that's where
Right.
you know it's all messed
And that's
up.
the first time Lucas is seriously stressed out. Like he's pulling his hair out and he's sitting there. And then Rick McCallum is in the back completely in shock. Like if I would highly recommend if you haven't
Going
watched
back
it.
to that part and seeing
just look at his face. He's in utter shock.
Oh my
And that
God.
is the first time you see like the wheels are falling off. But and then after that, like
John,
John Williams.
Yeah,
Did you
the
guys like
music.
that? The orchestra.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that they included other.
It's good.
They include other aspects of it, like the music and like the sound editing and all that stuff.
Easily, that could have been one of the better parts of the. It was all good. I really appreciated that, though. I mean, like that was kind of cool to see how it all. Because you could forget people are singing, and John Williams just got the dude's an OG. They said 3 words to each other, and it was like, got it. Like,
The tone is a little off, but okay, let's go. And then just
into it.
last note I have is
Last note you have.
I'm sorry, but they go to the premiere and Rick McCallum just gets up there and he's like, "This is effing awesome," and all the nerds are like, "Yeah!"
What would you expect?
I didn't expect him to swear or drop an F-bomb it's a PG movie.
You took the number 1 Star Wars fan who just got done going through hell and put him in front of all of his comrades. Like,
we're all in this together, guys.
Yeah.
We're going through it together. Oh my God. So
that's all I got.
I
absolutely love this movie, and I'm
next time
so thankful
you get one of these,
talk to you guys.
We get on there. It's one film, and then we'll just hammer that out.
Sure.
there's a lot to talk about with this one.
This is so rich in content for an hour and 6 minutes.
Yeah. I'm glad that you guys. Well, what are your guys' ratings of it?
I was thinking about that. Like, I guess we can rate this like it is on Letterboxd to be able to rate. So I did rate it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars, which translates for me to a 9 out of 10.
Makes sense, math there. I was gonna say 9 out of 10 too. That's an easy. I mean, this is an easy. Like we talked about the behind the content. You don't ever see. No one talks about the budget, and they don't sit down and go over line items, and you don't really get to see the making. So for it to be, and like you said, with it being one of the biggest films, for Star Wars coming back, it's the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and we got to see how they built it. Yeah. So
10 out of 10 for me. I think this is one of the best movies about making movies ever.
Oh, this is number 1.
Really good.
And it's purely they just lucked into it. It's not like it's a notable director or team. Like they're making a DVD extras.
Yeah.
No, it's the
bonus
first guy that
content.
did Hard Knocks. So it was like, hey, let's just kind of film what happens in the locker room and stuff for spring, for summer camps leading into OTAs.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable. It's just such groundbreaking stuff on camera, and also there's not like a score behind the movie. There's not like talking heads pointing you through. You're just all of a sudden it's Ewan McGregor in a sword fight with a stick with a guy with a shiner. And you're just along for the ride.
Really, really good documentary. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for suggesting it.
I really appreciate you guys watching it. I've been waiting so long to talk about this with anybody.
100%. I can see why.
Yeah.
Like after I'd seen it, it'd be
and it's on YouTube. It's there every May the 4th. I watch it, and it never gets old. And
There's so much stuff. We could rewatch this and just attach
Liam
yourself
Neeson
to,
doing the mime routine, pretending to be a mime in the desert with the guy, and he's like really not funny, and you're like, oh, okay, that's Liam Neeson, you know? Like there's tons of moments like that.
So, McClain, it's that time where I get to make a film pick recommendation.
Oh, you've been waiting for this too. That's why
I've been waiting a little bit. I've been waiting a little bit. So let me look up some info about this first before I spiel off into it.
That sounds like it's gonna be a Spielberg film.
Oh, it's not.
Damn.
1971 Duel.
Yeah, all right.
So this film is directed by auteur Bo Welch and came out in 2003. It is based off of a previously existing intellectual property written by one Dr. Seuss. This film
Here's who.
is the live-action Cat in the Hat movie.
Dude.
Love it. Love it.
We're going to watch this, and we're going to talk about this.
I've
You're
already
in for a
seen
treat.
it. Preston used to. I'll watch it again. Preston used to love this film, so it's the first time. Like when it came out, it was like, oh, great. Like I was a little too old for it, and then it didn't age well.
Oh,
And
it
then-
killed Mike Myers' career.
No, he came
Yes.
out with like Austin.
Oh,
Powers.
I think
no.
the Love Guru killed.
Well,
his
yeah,
career.
but that like forced his hand to like, you got to make a new funny character, and then he did the Love Guru, and that killed his career. Like, but yeah,
We'll talk about it more, but it definitely killed any prospect of a live-action Dr. Seuss movie.
Yes, it did. Well, and it's not. Yeah, we'll
We'll get into it, but yes, that's my recommendation.
Gemini
I have
Man
a
all
mug
over
that
again.
says "Cupcakes." Oh yeah, which is a quote that
I know, dude.
Okay.
I've seen.
You drank out of it.
I mean, I watched this film one time with Preston, and like the second or third time I was watching, I was like kind of scratching my head. I was like, "Oh, this is really edgy for a kids movie."
And that's part of why I want to talk about it.
Yeah, so
I haven't seen it since I was in like third grade. Like I haven't like sat down and watched the whole thing since then.
Great.
And I feel like it's gonna be really dank. It's Mike Myers, 2003.
See, dank for you is like the horrible films that we can rag. Like this is gonna be so many empty. This is me. Like, all right, you're gonna get 4 cheeseburgers at McDonald's. Like, and I just eat 2. It's like all 4.
yeah,
Like,
there's
all right. We'll do it.
I think it's been a while too since we've done like a really piece of shit. Like
Gemini Man was
kind of
probably the
movie.
last one.
didn't we
Yeah.
just do War of the World?
Whoa! You gave it an 8 out of 10, bud.
I did. I gave it the highest rating.
Oh my god, I
You
did.
did.
Cat in the Hat's probably 9 out of 10 for me.
All right, so we got the Cat in the Hat.
And then maybe if you watch it, also we could maybe talk about Top Gun, the new one, Top Gun Maverick,
Okay.
possibly.
There would be. I do have time, and I guess I might have to watch Top Gun the '86 version tonight.
It's on Prime.
Really?
Yeah.
I might have to get
The music alone, I highly recommend. There isn't one song that's played in that movie that I won't listen to.
I'm sure, dude. It's got a blockbuster from the '80s written all over it.
Oh
So,
yeah,
but-
it's a cool look. The
I'm
plot
not-
is atrocious.
I was about
but
to say it's been
I love it.
such a long time since I've seen it, but I think that's like one where you can't go wrong. So, and I feel like Maverick's probably the same way.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Excellent. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this.
God.
So thank
Talk
you
about,
everyone
like, no freaking like.
for listening.
I'm sorry, Mac. Are you complaining?
If you guys don't want to be spoiled for Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat 2003 with Mike Myers, be sure to watch that before episode 22.
Where can we find that at? You know.
It's on Netflix right now.
Go figure.
But I'm going to borrow the DVD, the Blu-ray, from a friend of mine from work
Don't name
because
drop 'em.
I want to enjoy any special features that may or may not be on it.
You got to check out some of the behind the scenes stuff.
You got
right?
it. I've
Like,
seen the Mike Myers, the bloopers of it, and it's not like haha bloopers. It's like him, like, you know, this latex is very uncomfortable. We have to film this now, and it's like boop boop, and then goes to the next one, and he's like cupcakes. Oh yeah, and then he's like, and then it goes blank, and he's like, I'm sorry, is that guy okay over there? Boop boop, and then you know,
yeah.
So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We're all over the place, so just keep on looking. Appreciate you guys listening, and
hell yeah,
Mac, Sam. Well, thank you, Sam, for coming on. We appreciate having you.
I want to do this as much as possible. I love you guys. Are the best. This is my favorite podcast. I will, whatever it takes. I'll do it.
Blood atonement.
Hand me that knife.
Really, Parker?
Neon Mafia shout out.
Wow, you stuck to the script really well there. That was great. I can't believe you got that like verbatim from like that document I sent you to read out at the end.
You could put that gun away from my head now.
Noted. McClain, is there any last words before we peace on out?
As always, WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.